Time to start your week off fresh with another day of the Cyto.gg Path2Pro Combine. We are at day 8, folks. It has been a full week, and we're not even technically at the halfway point, but we are back with some more games with these players going head-to-head with another unique matchup. I am joined, though, by the most exciting part for me, my main man RMC, going to take us through, be the big analytical mind behind things. We got to jump into game 1, folks. We already have the draft flying through here, RMC. No specialty really today, except it sounds like we're just going to be running full fearless for the block.
Yeah, as you mentioned, Slayer, we are entering week 2 in what was meant to be sort of a almost 3 week long online combine. It feels like we've kind of hit that midterm part. We're not seeing as many crazy challenges. We're not seeing the world drafts come through. A lot of fearless, and the players have some things they need to focus on. So it's kind of back to the basics right now for a lot of these players. And speaking of the players, we should start with who's on where. On the blue side, it's Team Crimson, with Crimson in the top lane, Bio in the jungle, Darkwings in the mid lane, Good Boy and Kim down, rounding out their roster. And on the red side, it's Team Hoarder, Hoarder in the top lane, Will in the jungle, Samakin in the mid lane, Mobility and Dum Dum rounding their side out.
Yeah, so very fun matchups. I mean, dare I say every day has some fun matchups, but to be specific here, I'm very interested to see Darkwings versus Samkin. Obviously, that is a NACL mid lane via mid lane matchup, and we already kind of have a bit of an idea of what it's going to look like, maybe especially now after this draft has gone through. We are on 14-21, where everybody's preaching Corki is back to dominating the mid lane, but people still find ways to make Aurora work very, very well. I've seen Aurora banned pretty heavily throughout the couple of days I've seen, so if this is the mid lane matchup, this would be a pretty fun one to see between our two players.
Yeah, and Aurora, of course, still flexible into that top lane. Hoarder, a very interesting player as well, has had a pretty large champion pool shown so far in the Combine. If he wants to expand it further with the likes of the Aurora, I wouldn't be that surprised.
Vi can be locked in here on the turn as well. And interesting, another pairing for with the Aurora. It works well with the Aurora. There's so many interesting Vi pairings nonetheless. So we'll see. Like you mentioned, even if it goes top or mid, will be a fun little combination to kind of single out a target, right? You can cease and desist onto one target and make sure they're locked in between worlds, knock a bunch of people's out of the ultimate as well, and kind of just look to burn through.
So there, I've just been informed. The teams are on the opposite sides. It's actually Team Hoarder on the blue side, Team Crimson on the red side. And this actually makes me think, if anything, we are more likely to see that Aurora in the top lane. I know Crimson has played quite a bit of it in solo queue, more than Hoarder has, at least, so wouldn't be surprised there. And we are also seeing, Bio with the Vi. I was wondering if, if Bio's Sejuani, that would surprise me, considering that he's more of an aggressive jungler. The Vi, I think, fits a lot more into his wheelhouse.
Yeah, so, all right, we're going to get the blind K'Sante coming out here for Hoarder, who, if I'm saw mistaken, this might be one of the first K'Sante Hoarder games, or
yes, it would be his first so far. So
yeah,
besides the World Drafts, Hoarder's actually only has played 5 unique champions in 5 non-World Draft games. So this would make 6 in his 6th.
Wow, we're just keeping up. He's just keeping those numbers to sync together, I guess. Certainly going to be interesting to see Will on the Sejuani as well. I've been very impressed by him in a lot of these spots. The couple of times I've gotten to see him. A really flexible champ pool, right? Because you think about Will's time in the qualifiers when he was playing for Polestar, a lot more aggressive jungle picks, not really necessarily the pure utility of Sejuani, but like we talk about these combines, right? Some of the drafts in the World's drafts, you're forced into playing champions you're not the most comfortable with in your pool, but combines are the spot to kind of show that you can play a wide array of champions. And it feels like every jungler's got to be able to play Sejuani pretty well if you want to threaten, NACL spots or even further above.
Yeah, and I feel like Sejuani especially is a champion that really shows decision making for a jungle and his ability to set things up for the team. So I like it for Will. I think he has been really good throughout this combine at setting up his team for success. Now, we are into the second set of bans, and for Team Hoarder on the blue side, they are looking for their bot lane. So neither Mobility nor Dum Dum has picked their champions, whereas for Team Crimson, they're looking for one of their solo laners and a support. We're seeing the support pool pinched already. I know, Slayer, you're telling me about how Dum Dum was really strong on the Braum, really good early movements, really good early roams. Well, Team Crimson did their homework, and they've taken that off the table.
Yeah, very good pairing as well. It's just you have a lot of very surefire CC if you pair Sejuani and Braum together. You're talking about, showing decisiveness. Those two champions together can really just be all you really need to sort of start fights, and it does feel like I gotta remember we swapped the teams here. Team Hoarder on the blue side, the way their comp is building is kind of just your traditional double marksman here, build a beefy front line for them, and just kind of simplistically fight front to back. So getting rid of the Braum and getting rid of the Renata as well. Those are two really smart bands into a comp that's already showing through bio that they're going to want to jump on top of whichever one of these marksmen they can get to.
Yeah, I feel like the early Seraphine ban coming through from Team Crimson as well. There's not as much threat for Dum Dum to go after that Jinx. There's not that much threat as a whole coming through from Team Hoarder, pardon me, to be able to go after Good Boy on that Jinx. Another support ban slayer, all
Wow.
four into that support role. So Kim Down and Dum Dum. I mean, there's still other champions you can look at if you're looking for Engage. You know, Rakan's still potentially on the table. Nautilus has kind of fallen out of favor, but still exists if that is what they want to go for. Thresh is a champion that I feel like both of these supports play, where you can kind of give a bit more utility. It's not the best Engage, but the hook is still a really, really good non-committal way to start things off.
Yeah, I think if you're Dum Dum here, if you could play Alistar, this is an immediate Alistar lock-in,
True,
personally.
yep.
I think you just can slam... I know Mobility's played a really good Zeri game that he lost in. If you just want to go Zeri Alistar here, you've got yourself a double marksman comp with a big front line that can kind of just absorb a lot of the hits that Team Crimson is going to try and throw your way. So I wouldn't be shocked if that's the turn. It should just be a hyper carry to carry alongside Alistar, whichever one you really want to pick, whichever one Mobility's feeling. Especially now, like you mentioned, the Rakan up and taken away. Zaya is another perfect one, and the Nautilus locked in besides it, but there's a good amount of peel. There's self-peel even for Mobility as well to try and survive the haymakers Team Crimson is going to be throwing these marksmen's way.
Yeah, I think once they picked up the Zaya for Mobility there, they wanted more engaged. They want to go in. Because again, the big problem for the side of Team Hoarder right now is the Jinx that Good Boy is piloting. You don't have anything that can really hit that back line. Jinx has a lot of range. Now, I'm curious if Team Crimson goes to something a little bit tanky to round things out for their team. Again, I was expecting Zora to potentially be flexed into the top lane for Crimson. Darkwings does play it as well. No, it is still going to be for Crimson, and it's not tank. I was thinking, okay, Darkwings can pick something like a Silas, like a Galio if they want to give a bit more frontline, but no, they're going for Syndra. A lot of damage, a lot of playmaking potential coming out of Team Crimson here.
Yeah, it definitely feels like they're the comp that, will have some advantages in their lane assignments and will really want to try and spike around that level 6 to mid-game area. This is going to be very interesting to see how Team Hoarder kind of pilot that, duality of you don't want to play too aggressive early and mid with your comp like this, but you also don't want to play too passively that you're just giving away free leads. So I'm really interested to see specifically how Will navigates this period of the game, because you've got a Cassante into Aurora matchup that's not any fun. Syndra Corki, I mean, it's like it's a little bit up in the air in my mind. And then Zaya, Nautilus, a lot of lanes that might need the Sejuani's help to try and make sure that the early and mid game is not just these damage dealers blowing away everybody on Team Hoarder.
For sure, yeah, I agree with you. I think the laning side of things, if one team or the other doesn't really want to engage and just wants to farm up, I'm not seeing any lanes I'm expecting to see blown open in the early game. Later on, maybe Syndra can just one-shot the likes of a Corki as she skills up, but early phase, I'm looking at a lot of the junglers, and you're looking at Will, I'm looking at Bio, because on this Vi, you're a playmaker as well, and I don't feel like Vi scales as well as Sejuani necessarily. She's got that nice, easy engage, press R. There's no real way to stop it unless you have the Zaya with the Featherstorm. So she'll always have utility later on. But a lot of her strength, I feel like, is in the early game when she can get those ganks off. And when I see matchups like Aurora and Cassante, if you can get the Aurora rolling, she can take over. Similarly, in the mid lane, if Syndra gets ahead, she can look to one-shot Corki. And in the bot side, okay, Rakan Jinx doesn't scare me necessarily as far as 2v2s, even if you get them ahead a little bit in the laning phase. But Jinx will be that mega late game carry as well. If you can get the Jinx snowballing a little bit faster, that's when she becomes an issue. So it feels like the junglers for both these teams are really what it takes to unlock their compositions.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Sometimes you get those drafts where it feels like traditionally the supports should swap with their marksman, right? I mean, Zaya Rakan, you can think of that all the time, and then Jinx Nautilus, but it's those supports in this game that we're seeing kind of playing Kim Down Dum Dum for outside of their lane assignments. The Rakan is there to be an extra lockdown piece next to Bio's Vi, and then these top laners like you were talking about. But I know we jumped in here to the draft, and RFC, you had a pretty cool graphic about these top laners that I think is even more applicable given the champions they've selected being two more unique champions between these two players.
Yeah, so actually both these top laners, I've noticed so far in the Combine, the top lane tends to swing very heavily one way or the other. We're not seeing too many sort of even matchups come through. And for both these players, Hoarder has played 9 games or 3 sets of 3 blocks in the Combine so far. Crimson has 4, so 9 games and 12 games. We mentioned it before. Hoarder has actually played 5 unique champions, 6 unique champions now, when you don't include the champions he had to play for the World's Drafts. Crimson, on the other hand, has slightly more preferred champions. Like he's played 3 games of Rumble and 2 games of Olaf when he's had the options to choose. So a little bit more specialized on Crimson side, a lot more carries on Crimson side. Hoarder, on the other hand, very diverse champion pool, not only picking unique champions every time, but how they play is different. You've got the Vladimir, late game hyper carry, AoE base. You've got Gwen, who can kind of go split push and win out the 1v1s. You got a Vayne, a marksman in a meta where they've started to fall out a little bit. Plus, the shared champion pool they have, the Jax, the Poppy, the Renekton. Now, granted, some of it was Roadstraw, specifically Poppy, but at the same time, they've both shown that they can play these bruisers still. So a bit of a clash in how these players like to play Hoarder with whatever the team needs versus Crimson and his carries.
It's very interesting because, you know, one of the conversations that always gets thrown around combines, the term like gatekeeper players between the levels, because obviously we're looking here at the Path2Pro Combine kind of between the tier 3 to tier 2 space, like who is going to get, you know, try and make these jump ups. Crimson, first split in the NACL. You know, the CCG roster was a bit tumultuous, but a lot of people, I'm sure you would agree, RMC, say the Crimson did have a pretty positive first split in tier 2. And then you have on the flip side Hoarder, who, you know, has been dogging it out in tier 3, trying to, you know, promote into NACL, earn a spot in NACL. I would argue Hoarder has looked his best these past recent months with Polestar. Very impressive, and he's been very impressive in this combine for me as well. So this matchup is very indicative of that classic conversation of, all right, Hoarder, how do you look up against tier 2 talent? And then Crimson, how do you look up against, you know, developing talent that's come for a spot that you earned and looked so good in during your NACL time?
And going to this game, when we saw the drops, well, I do feel like it played exactly to that idea that we had, right? The fact that Hoarder is going for something like a Cassante, that's not a champion, Showmaker aside, when he complains about it, who kind of demands all the attention in a game. Like he's meant to just be sort of a champion in the top side who can do whatever he needs to do. He'll be an absolute unit come the mid to late game, really strong piece for a team-based composition, whereas you get something like an Aurora, that is a playmaker, that is a carry, that is a champion who's going to draw eyes to you, and that's exactly what we expect from Crimson. So this top side, definitely eyes on it. If there is going to be action without the jungle involved in the early game, I do expect it to be top side, and I do think Hoarder will be at a slight disadvantage playing the melee into range matchup.
Certainly. And, you know, those storylines show up as well when you're talking about some of these other lane matchups, and they evolve a bit. Bio, obviously, most improved player, winner from the qualifiers. Will has experience in tier 2, has been around a very long time, also very impressive. And then it's always nice when you get your classic NACL versus NACL matchups in these combines. We just get a preview of what the future of NA mids might look like, especially the way Darkwings has been playing these last couple years. I would argue one of the most consistent mid laners in tier 2 in the C-low space. And then Samikin, obviously, I mean, is the new hot commodity ever since he made his meteoric rise from playing in Risen Champs League last fall to now being one of the stable mid laners for the future of tier 2.
And I really like the fact that Samikin's actually running something like a Corki as well, because Samikin, you know, a lot of people have been saying, oh yeah, he's really good on mages, but in the marksman meta we had this year, we didn't see Samikin kind of go and opt for those marksmen quite as much.
He said hell no.
Exactly. And, hey, you know, maybe part of that Samikin's pool, maybe that's just what the team wanted, because Blue Otter, you know, was a newer team into the NACL this split, had a really strong run, and Samikin on mages just looked great on it. And now he's going for the Corki. That is something more marksman-esque. So I like to see Samikin kind of going towards that look. Darkwings, on the other hand, like you mentioned, he's been a staple in the team for a long time, but in this combine specifically, Slayer, he's 10 wins, 2 losses in the combine so far. This guy's been an absolute monster. Second highest KD at 5.3, highest CS per minute 8.3. Like, he's been a beast. And for Samikin, it's going to be a bit of a tough one. I remember watching them back on day 1 and in the laning phase, in the 1v1, Darkwing seemed to have Samikin's number. Maybe today that changes. Maybe Samikin gets to bounce back a little bit with his Corki.
Yeah, certainly, you know, the added effect, because we know that at some point we're looming over some sort of cut downs on how many players are going to be involved in here. Obviously,
Yes.
Everyone at home, you've heard it later on after we're not even halfway through the 3 weeks, folks, but once we get past that, you know, we cut down to just 10 players that are going to LA, and then we go down to 5 players that get to go to that Korean boot camp. So I feel like this set particular, obviously it's a new week, RMC, but it feels like there's a heightened sense of maybe urgency or just threat to perform, knowing that we are getting close to kind of a change from the first, a change in the first phase of this Path2Pro Combine.
Yeah, 30 players, around 30 players, you know, at the start of the combine, and about halfway through the online, there's going to be a bit of a cut. Then 10 make it to LA, where they'll have a 1-week camp there, I believe, with Parth in person. And then after that, yet to be determined number will get a 1-month boot camp in Korea itself. So obviously for these players, a lot riding on it. And as we kind of spoke about, the fact that there's not many challenges right now in this second week, at the end of the first week, start of the second week, with the first cut coming up, there is a lot more pressure on the players as well. Like these champions being selected right now, players want these champions. They're not being forced into picking things like Poppy and the top lane, as an example there. And for the players as well, they've been kind of given things, some objectives or some focuses on their gameplay when we get into there. With Macro as well, I believe Bio's been told that he needs to start or to focus a little bit on looking at objectives ahead of time, start that conversation with his team. Whereas Will, for example, has been told like, okay, if your team starts to fall behind, get creative with it, find ways to come back in. And so for the players themselves, win or lose, that's less important than actually meeting these secondary, or not secondary, primary objectives given to them by their coaches, by the Combine.
Yeah, we'll certainly be watching for a lot of those objectives from a lot of these players, because we've got even a couple of more that I kind of want to wait to say until we see them maybe in action, or we maybe don't see them in action in this first game. But we are going through the spectator delay on the client side. You can see we have fully drafted in client, and we're going to take a very short break, just a couple of minutes to get through this thing. On the other side, game number 1 of the first block of day 8 of the Cyto.GG Path2Pro Combine. We'll see you guys in a few. Back in a flash, live from Summoner's Rift for our first game of the block between Team Hoarder and Team Crimson. Very fun draft on both sides, especially we talk about these solo lanes. Talked about a bit in the draft RMC, but going to be very interested to see how volatile some of these matchups are between some players that we've had some pretty good things to say about so far across the 8 days.
Yeah, for sure. And laning wise, I'm expecting the side lanes, if anything, to kind of give us action. And you can already see right from the get go, Crimson is wanting to deliver that action, trying to play out Hoarder early, but Hoarder really only taking the one auto attack. That's perfectly fine.
Getting some early vision down as well to try and track these junglers. We'll try to get somewhat of an idea of where Bio is pathing because, like you mentioned, these two junglers, while a bit different in their playmaking aspects, you know, more supportive on the Sejuani from Will, maybe a little more damage-oriented for Bio on the Vi, are definitely going to want to have impact on these early lanes as well. So tracking their clear is going to be pretty important for both of these junglers.
Yeah, and already I like the team play we're seeing come out from Team Crimson. Crimson actually getting into the enemy jungle to get a very late ward down to be able to track Will. I was a little bit concerned that Will got that ward and Team Crimson didn't have anything to answer. So they know where Bio is, but they wouldn't know where Will is, especially when Sejuani can be a very potent early jungler. She doesn't have as much damage as the Vi early on, but she's still got a hefty chunk of burst damage, and the CC is the important component.
Level 1 training in the bot side. No Dredgeline committed from DumDum just yet because he wants to snipe out Good Boy. We'll find that one, but like we mentioned, two AD carries who are not too much about fighting in the early levels.
Paired with supports who are about the early aggression. I wouldn't be surprised if we do actually see quite a bit of action coming through. Will, though, is in the lower quadrant of the map, and with the aggression that Good Boy and Kim Down are putting out, if they don't get a ward down, and if they do get a ward down, you can see, right? Like right now you can see Kim Down walking off, trying to get that vision. If he didn't do that, that's an invitation for Will to get down there and get into the action.
Yeah, really smart ward, especially because Team Hoarder had spotted Bio taking his rafters, so they know that he is just now pathing towards that lower quadrant.
Ooh, that's it. Because Mobility and DumDum is being shoved in right now, Will actually invading on his own without lane backup.
Look at this path he's taking. He's actually setting up for the gank to
goodness.
avoid that ward that Kim Down put down. So Good Boy and Kim Down have no clue. DumDum's going to flash early. The double root from Mobility locks them both in place. Good Boy's going to flash, but he's got a Sejuani following him. Will's going to grab first blood and turn his attention to Kim Down. Still has his flash with the red buff slow. Will have to expend it, but what a path from Will to set up first blood for Team Hoarder.
It's funny because Will's assignment today was, if the team falls behind, get creative. I think he was getting creative right from the get-go. I love that pathing. The fact that he was invading right into the enemy jungle with Samakin having prio in that mid lane and then looping back. And even if they have a ward, because Good Boy and Kim Down are pressed so far up, they have to burn flashes at the minimum. And getting the kill, that's just icing on the cake. Unfortunately, it didn't go to Mobility, but for Will on the Sejuani, he made it work. He gets first blood. I don't hate it.
Oh, here's Bio's response, going for a regain, trying to get Mobility, and DumDum on the reset, and DumDum doing the classic support play, sacrificing himself for his AD carry. That kill goes over to Good Boy, though, so no first blood, but maybe better gold allocation for Team Crimson.
Yeah, and hey, with the pressure that they got, with the gold they're able to pick up as well, they're actually a little bit ahead, Team Crimson. They're able to completely nullify that first blood advantage that Team Hoarder picked up. I do appreciate the fact from DumDum as well. No flash available. Did they overpush? Maybe a little bit without the vision, but when you're in that situation, yeah, just get Mobility out. You're dead to rights. You know that. What are you going to do? You try and minimize the losses you got.
That's exactly the plays DumDum is looking to continue to make. As we have the dragon spawning about 30 seconds out here, but we might have some more scuffling as DumDum has set himself a trap. They watch Bio walk in to the enemy jungle. He's going to Hex Flash and not find Bio. So just some warding done nonetheless. But this is more of a very interesting point to see, you know, where the neutral objective priority lies with these junglers, especially with how the lanes have gone. Is DumDum is not DumDum. Bio is just being relentless in this bottom quadrant jungle.
I don't know if this benefits Bio, to be honest. He interrupted his own recall just to slow DumDum down. You're not getting any significant damage. DumDum's just going to walk right back to lane anyways, so you've just kind of slowed your pace down as the dragons have spawned. From Bio, we'll see if that comes back to bite him whatsoever. For the side of Team Hoarder here, they should be roughly aware of the fact that Bio, you know, what items he has. Is he going to stick around? There's a lot of vision for Team Crimson on this bot side, they might just be looking to make sure that Will can't start it up, and they can go for grubs instead.
Because grubs certainly feel like the free take. I mean, the shove going on in mid, and especially top lane with this range in the melee matchup is very, very Crimson side heavy. So Bio just going to clear out the camps on the top squadron he gets, and it should line up pretty well for a pretty simple grub take if he wants it.
Yep, and speaking of that top side, Crimson with the shove. He's been getting pressure throughout, but props to Hoarder, who has not missed much CS Darkwings in the mid lane. Oh, the outplay button.
Darkwings didn't even need a flash forward. He gets the max range stun, hits R, and says, "See you later, Samakin."
Okay, that is so annoying when you play against... Literally, there's nothing you can do early on until you pick up a status item. It's really unfortunate for Samakin, and this also unlocks Team Crimson to do whatever they want on the Rift with that numbers advantage, because Samakin already used TP as well. If they want grubs, they get grubs. If they want dragon, they get dragon, and Will's left to pick up the scraps. For now, they are focusing the void grub side of it. I just don't know what Team Hoarder can necessarily do to answer this right now.
Move a push on the bot side, yeah, but like you mentioned, you can see the vision as well. Very Team Crimson oriented. Will is being constantly pinged and tracked on the map as he does finally go to start up this dragon, and we'll see if Team Crimson want to try and maybe contest here, but it does seem like they're pretty happy with the trade, especially with Bio having a couple of camps at his bottom side he has to play for, as we get a double knockup from Kim down. Mobility having to kite back here as the Nautilus is trying to body block. Goes back on the dredge line. They get another double root on the feather pullback. Really well-timed CC chain, and it's going to earn Mobility his first kill of the game.
Oh, that was beautiful coordination from them on the pull it right into the middle of that blade call. All the feathers coming through, and it looked good for Good Boy and Kim down. I really appreciate the double knockup, and that cemented Will's ability to solo out on Dragon. You saw how long it took. Darkwing's trying to dodge, duck, and weave. Will survive with flash, by the way, Slayer. He did burn it earlier on the kill. He didn't burn it this time on the escape either.
Yep, still holding on to it safely. Gonna get his recall interrupted. Will is kind of close by if they want to try and threaten for a die, but Darkwings is gonna back up even further and play safely here. You mentioned the dragon taken. So we get the pretty natural order trade of 3 first grubs for that first Drake, and it's an interesting conversation, RMC, because in this game, there isn't really a ton of split push threat. Obviously, that's not all the grubs are about, but usually is a pretty big factor.
Yeah, and I wonder how much of that's also just because of the likes of the Aurora as well, who later on will be able to split push. Granted, she's not like a Jax or a Yorick or something in terms of how much she can quickly take, but she should still have that advantage and agency over the likes of Xante. Later on, too, with the Jinx, any sort of team fight win should rapidly result in a lot of standing turrets going down as well. So it feels like a bit of an investment on the side of Team Crimson. If you're stacking the first 2 dragons to get it, that's fine, as long as you can contest for those 3rd drakes and you don't give over a free soul.
Will looking for a little bit of lane gank as they get the dredge line down from Dum Dum. Good Featherstorm as well to dodge the knockup. Good Boy has to commit his flash, but they're just going to root and lock down onto Kim down. Glacial Prison gets it. Flashes galore. They want Good Boy with his flash down. What a clinic on the bot side for Team Hoarder.
Top side, Kaio's trying to find an answer. Hoarder still has flash.
Yep, gonna have to burn it to get out of between worlds, but you'll take that if you're the weak side top laner, just losing your summoner for what your team's been gaining on the bot side.
It's not done yet. Darkwings is rotating into this top lane. Crimson walking a wave, and they're looking for a 3-man dive.
Welcome to the top lane Hoarder when you're playing weak side, my friend. 3-man dive, good unstoppable. The CC assist still lands. Skylar the Weak does not finish off.
He's still alive?
Goes all out. The turret being taken by Darkwings. Good juggle of the aggro, but that was a lot dicier than intended.
Yeah, Hoarder lived longer, I think, than they expected. Bot side Dum Dum just going 1v1 against Good Boy right now.
Okay, well, he let the lethal tempo stack. Kipdown's going to flash. No knockdown. Rock in the face of Dum Dum lands another dredge line. Doesn't get the depth charge out. Mobility was coming up to try and help him, but now he has to retreat because he walked all the way through the turret aggro. A mistake from Dum Dum nearly cost Mobility his life, and he does have to expend the flash.
A little bit uncharacteristic from Mobility and Dum Dum from what we've seen from them this game. That desynced on the aggression onto Good Boy, because Mobility and Dum Dum, their 2v2 has been spectacular so far. The hooks have been on point onto Good Boy, somehow dodging out on Kim down repeatedly. And Mobility's blade calls have been doing so much work, getting so much AoE damage down. So a little bit of a surprise to see that. It will cost Dum Dum his life, and it does give Good Boy another kill, much needed to try and equalize this layout.
And we see a fast reset off that death for Mobility. He's going to sprint topside, kind of showing that Will and Team Hoarder really don't want to give away any void bites to that Jinx like you were talking about, because you lose one major team fight of the Jinx, you lose your entire base, as we finally see Darkwings having to use his flash for the first time.
Dum is just making work all around the map. We're placing bot lane, goes mid, burns the flash that Darkwings has been holding for such a long time. And Slayer, Dum, formerly known as Braruto, back in CCG in, what was it, 2023. Honestly, back then, he didn't particularly stand out to me. He was fine, he did his job. But in this Combine so far, this guy's been an absolute menace, even this topside roam.
Yep, he gets the depth charge off this time into the Glacial Prison. I mean, that lockdown is so seamless and so free for a kill. But unfortunately for Dum, Good Boy and Kim Down were roaming up topside. Gets Good Boy the reset. This is going to make the Grub take particularly interesting as Kim Down and Good Boy will finally stop their chase.
I don't know if Bio showed on that bot wave. I think he did. I think Hoarder actually spotted him out, so Will should know that we can go for this top side. Kim Down and Good Boy alone is not the winning 2v2. Samakin might be in trouble though as the collapse starts.
Yep, they're trying to collapse to get the cease and desist down into the absolute power. Samakin does dodge the E from the Syndra and is able to kite back safely to knock down Kim Down. Bio going back in, but is far too low. Mobility is starting to throw down the feathers.
Dum's here.
Battle lines are drawn on both sides. Dum looking to break it. Hits the dredge line onto Good Boy. Welcome to Nautilus hitbox, Good Boy. Mobility goes on a rampage.
That is so okay. That Nautilus hitbox, man. And it just keeps landing on Good Boy too. I remember the bot lane, multiple times we saw it kind of weaving around Kim Down to somehow catch Good Boy, and it's just a death sentence for Good Boy right now. That ain't a Nautilus, that's a Thresh that Dum's piloting.
It's so funny. What's the old joke about League of Legends is like if a bug, I say in quotation marks, or a problem exists for more than 2 weeks, it's a game feature. Well, Nautilus hitbox, yeah, Nautilus hitbox has been that way for what? Oh, I don't know, half a decade by this point. Maybe even more, as we might see more of this Nautilus get shown off. Kim Down and Good Boy once again pushed off of trying to catch this huge wave, but Dum maybe going a little too ham. Will re-engage and just delete Kim Down on the first blow. Will getting knocked up, but Will throw the base push down to Good Boy. Mobility walks around Bio to target Good Boy. He's going to find the kill onto him. Shut down back for Bio onto Will, and now it's Mobility versus Bio in the 1v1. Samakin with the Phosphorus Bomb will even it out and find himself a kill to give Team Hoarder the slight edge in the fight.
It's just the slimmest of margins. Both teams willing to scrap. Both these 80 carries especially willing to scrap, but Mobility, Slayer, 6-0-4 on this Xayah, and he's winning out. He's the big beneficiary. He's the one picking up plates, and CS Darkwing's going in.
Oh, a couple more rockets. Big scatter of the week. Doesn't hit the Q, though. Well, the rocket goes wide from Samakin as the margins stay ever so thin in the mid lane. It's Kim Down trying to answer it, but he misses the grand entrance, and Samakin is able to walk away.
And I love how Samakin's just baiting right now. He's buying time. He knows he has Dum and Will nearby. If Kim Down and Darkwings overstay their welcome, that's an easy turn for them. Corki can put out a decent amount of damage from range and has a good amount of burst as well. So props to Samakin. We said that on day one. We saw this matchup between Darkwings and Samakin, and Darkwings was winning out heavily on day one. A week later, Samakin doing much better, keeping this much more even.
Speaking of keeping some of these matchups even, I want to give some credit to Hoarder in this Aurora matchup. The one death was a 3-man dive. Outside of that, staying even in CS into Aurora is a pretty good sign on that Cassante matchup, as Mobility's damage is just ludicrous by this point in the game.
Yeah, 2 items completed, actually. The Navori Flicker Blades as well.
Oh, Dum eats a full combo from Darkwings. Does have to flash away from Bio, who's nearby. The dredge line won't land. Could see a potential flank angle from Will and with Mobility top side, but Team Crimson are playing safe enough with the Rift Herald spawning.
I just love the way Dum gets beaten by Bio. It has threat of death, has to kind of flash away, hook away, get out as fast as he can. And yet he's immediately ready to turn around with the hook as soon as his team's coming in. He would have died in that situation, but he'd have gotten a kill for his team. Herald now the Nyx focus, as we do see Team Crimson. They're the first one to get all 5 in the area.
All ultimates available, tons of flashes. Feels like first real fight of the game starting to build as the teams shift over towards these mid waves. Herald was aggroed by Team Hoarder, but they'll let it go back towards the pit here. Hoarder looking to push the tempo onto Crimson, but a lot of vision on top of this blue side. Make sure they can spot any of these engages coming. Mobility and Will start up onto the Herald, trying to slowly chunk it down. The answer to have to come to Team Crimson, who are trying to occupy the mid side of this river. Hoarder doing the great Cassante impression, holding everybody at bay, trying to be a distraction, and Team Crimson just going to succeed the Herald, trying to play for the Dragon.
Hoarder just happy to be here, man. He got put in a really rough 1v1 situation into a melee into range. His job is, when the team fights start, to be there and be the absolute unit, and Hoarder is doing exactly just that. I want to highlight the difference between the AD carries as well. We talked about how Mobility, 2 completed items. Good Boy hasn't finished his. His first item is not even there. So Team Crimson didn't really want to fight the Herald. They wanted to sneak it if they could, maybe facilitate a pick. Now Crimson in the top side as Will and Mobility are pushing in.
Leisure Prison, but the charm, the quickness comes down onto Mobility. He has to push out the Featherstorm, able to survive out in the Between Worlds and hits the Blade Caller to create some safety, but it's Dum Dum once again with the re-engage on the Dredge line, forcing the heal out of Kim down. He'll have to retreat, but the next fighter steps up. It's Bio trying to find an angle onto Mobility. Remember, he's the one with the huge shutdown, but Samikin swings over next, and they get the hook and lock Bio in before he can even press R. Flash away from Kim down as they have to give respect over to Will. Crimson trying to kite back with the Aurora. Health bar's very low. Dredge line lands from Dum Dum once again. Snipes out a priority target. Sets up another kill for Team Hoarder, but it's Good Boy flashing to get the Jinx reset. Gonna let the rocket start flying, but does he have the items to compete with Mobility's damage? Absolutely not, as Mobility flashes to secure himself a double back.
And Will with the flash in to get that knockup. That was the difference. If Good Boy created a bit more space with that reset he had with the Mobility, the speed he had on Mobility, if anything, maybe that Jinx reset starts to roll. Now, in the bot side, I do believe Darkwings actually picked up the turret on that push. Hoarder was just trying to hold him there. So Darkwings didn't have a chance to TP, didn't get a chance to join the rest of the team. And Team Hoarder, with the Herald, with that push, they blow the game open. This is the first big lead we're actually seeing come through for the side of Team Hoarder here.
Looks like Hoarder, I don't know if Hoarder forced the flash. I'm going to guess because he's playing Asante. Hoarder and Darkwings' flashes are on exact same cooldown, so must have been a bit of a scuffle in the bot side for that tier 1 turret. But I really like that play from Will, recognizing, hey, they weren't contesting the Herald, so they got to be thinking something on the bot side of the map, knew that they were going to go for that Dragon, and that Herald push ends up knocking down 2 of those turrets and obviously gets that big gold injection like you're talking about, RMC, to really put them in the driver's seat.
And again, additional kills going over, and Mobility picking up another 2 in all that chaos. Still hasn't dropped yet, and Mobility's going to be a massive issue. They're going for Hoarder. I don't think they have kill threat. Darkwing's build with the Blackfire Torch, it's decent for burning down squishier targets. It's not as effective as something like a Leandry's into Hoarder, so Hoarder is more than happy in that sort of matchup.
Oh, Mobility going to get tested again. Uses the Featherstorm well to dodge out on Kim Down's combo, and the Blade Call damage is low enough to get Kim Down off of him. Dum Down next turret. Great cancel from Bio to make sure that Dredge line goes short, but there's no main damage either behind the engage, so Dum Dum just casually waltzes his way out.
Doesn't have to blow too much. More Samikin, though, now very deep in enemy territory. He's cut off from his team, and keep in mind, Bio didn't use the ult. The Vi ultimate is available. Guess wrong,
let him out.
Quite able to find him.
Yeah, I was going to say, Samikin, you obviously saw those people engaging onto Mobility, so knew there was a presence of the bot side. I thought that'd be a much bigger punish, but maybe the punish is coming onto Good Boy's head as Will comes in from the rafters, whiffs on the Glacial Prison, and now the fight's going to break out. Bio going to re-engage onto the tanks, both of them locked in the Between Worlds, but they're annoying Samikin and Mobility. You're really starting to dish the damage back out. Bio limps away from the fight with about 10 HP. Dum Dum re-engages onto Darkwings, who scatter the weaks away, the very tanky Nautilus, and the blinking health bar is able to survive for Team Crimson.
But they do, and the juggle of aggro is really, really good as well, rotating who was in the front of the fight. Keep in mind, for Team Crimson, they don't have a true tank on their composition as well. That was one thing we noted in the draft, the fact that you've got a Rakan, you've got a Vi, that's about it. Both of them, well, one's on support budget, and the other is more Bruiser-esque than full tank. So being able to juggle that aggro is critical. Mobility without Featherstorm pushing up here.
Oh, the Chompers, he steps right into them, and Darkwings TPs with a massive flank to cut off any escape area. Mobility falls for the first time, and the shutdown gold, 1,000 of it, goes over to Good Boy. Darkwings will take the second kill as he rightfully earned it with that TP flank.
And the raid boss going down in Mobility, that was the signal that Team Crimson could kind of go on it. They do still find a turret, so not the end of the world. Kim down.
Samikin got more than enough damage now with that Triforce, and Samikin wants to kill the Locket Shield, just enough for Kim Down to slowly escape on the Rakan.
Big one didn't quite let him down. That was blind, right? He didn't pop a vision cone? He just...
No, I don't think so. He's just... This guy, man.
I love it. Dum Dum has really impressed me this game with his engages and with his aggression on this Nautilus. He's really willing to get in there, and it's paired so well with Mobility. It's really snowballed that lead from the bot side. The Team Crimson as a whole, they're really scrappy, and we talked about the amount of damage their composition have. Every single player on this team, all their champions have ways of kind of getting back into it. Crimson, he's caught out, no flash.
He's caught out by 2 tanks. It's Dum Dum and Will. Between Worlds drop through, and yeah, they got Mobility nearby, but I don't even think they really needed Mobility. They might gift him the kill over just for gold's sake, but That one was earned by Will.
It was. Crimson trying to pull the Samikin impression, not quite able to get out the same way. Hook! For the first time, doesn't land.
Yeah, it feels like this has been automatic from Dum Dum today. And it looks like it's an automatic Baron start for Team Hoarder. Without Crimson on the board and they know bios on that Dragon, the bot side, they think they can burn through the Baron off spawn quick enough with Mobility's absolutely nuclear build path he's already been on. Dragon secured in the background by Bio. Darkwings and Kim down trying to get close to the pit, but Hoarder and Dum Dum are just holding them at bay. Won't even let them get vision on the purple Nasher, and it's secured by Will and Mobility. Question now becomes, what does the escape plan look like for Team Hoarder? Because Bio and Kim down are hunting the heal for the speed up. They get the Scatter of the Week onto Hoarder. Flashes to enjoy CC, goes all out, pulls Bio into a 1v1, but it's just Hoarder sacrificing himself so his team can get out with the Baron.
I was genuinely wondering if Team Hoarder would actually turn on that. They have so much strength right now, so much damage. And with the angles Team Crimson was coming into, they weren't necessarily all together. They weren't cohesive, and there was a risk of a turn. But they decide that today discretion's the better part of valor. They don't want to waste the Baron buff. They're going to sack one over, and that's fine. Hoarder, when he comes back, will still be able to split push. He's not going to waste that much time on it. And for Team Hoarder, with this Baron buff, I want to see what they can do with it. The last set of turrets they took was with the Herald on that top side. Since then, it has slowed down a lot in terms of what they've been able to get on the map.
And Armsy, this feels like the real, arguably one of the strongest points for this two-headed beast of marksman, because you've got Samikin with the more mana done, and Mobility is obviously very inflated. You also factor that within Darkwing's interesting build path.
Yeah.
Really has nerfed his damage output so far, as we see Samikin in a 1 versus 2 versus Crimson. He flashed out of between worlds, and he has a TP behind. Will has flanked the flank, and now Crimson is suddenly 1 versus 4. Kim down in his own 1v1 against Mobility is getting absolutely shredded. And the push is going to continue. Dum Dum flashes early, trying to see if he can get to a dredge line on the Darkwings. Going to fall just short, but the push continues.
And Darkwing's just trying to clear the way, but against the Baron buff, it's not very effective. Instead, to go back to your point about this build from Darkwings, I already kind of questioned it a little bit with the Blackfire Torch coming through early. It's good for bursting down squishy targets. If you could get the isolated 1v1 against Samikin, it could work. Against Mobility, a little bit dicier because of the Feather Storm. Problem is, he's not able to get to the back line. The front line is doing so much work. Look at Dum Dum getting right in there.
Yeah, and Good Boy just a little too far forward trying to catch waves, and it's going to cost him and his support their lives. Dum Dum once again at the point of the spear for the engaged team of Team Hoarder.
Yeah, and for Darkwings, even for Good Boy, how are you hitting the back line? How are you hitting the squishies? Your build's good at dealing with them if you can get to them. But the front line of Hoarder, of Will as well. Dum Dum is so aggressive. I love it.
You know what? He's aggressive to a fault, but honestly accomplishes the goal. They kill off Bio. They do knock the base open for Team Crimson. It's Darkwings and Crimson trying to hold the line. They've got decent range to try and throw some poke down. Now those tanks are looking a bit more unhealthy, a bit more taxed. As Darkwings hits another Scatter of the Week. Kim down, going back in. They're going to try and pick off the stragglers in the front line.
Hey.
Crimson to flash forward. The rocket
Crimson
from downtown nearly executes Mobility. His flash on a sliver of health makes him the only one to survive, but Crimson is chasing. Got a lot more movement speed and grabs the auto. It's an ace back for Team Crimson.
And that very sorely needed for this team. They're starting to fall behind. Even though they've evened up the kills, they are still down about 3,500 gold due to the turrets that they lost, due to the Baron buff pressure that did come down. And we were saying, okay, Darkwings can't find the backline. Well, who's got to step up? It's Crimson. Crimson's the one with the Andrews. Crimson's the one with a gold lead up against his lane opponent and can actually shred through. And you saw what he managed to do to Hoarder, to Will. Now, with the gold lead as a whole that Team Hoarder have, I'm not expecting to see this sort of catch-out happen too many more times. But in this particular push, Hoarder and Will, they overstayed their welcome. They really wanted that inhibitor, and because of that, they were a little bit lower to start. That Leandries shredded them that much faster.
And while we're a little bit critical and intrigued by the Darkwing's build path, I mean, it is still him just dominating individually, right? 5-0-6. His positioning has been flawless to make sure he's never gotten killed off like Crimson has unfortunately gotten killed off in these side lanes a couple of times. Will on the flank, trying to get Samikin close enough and locks in Crimson in place. Can't use the Between Worlds to teleport to safety. Samikin finds the first kill, and Dum Dum is still as bloodthirsty as ever, hunting for more of these kills. The depth charge won't find much as Kim down able to get back to the fourth stack.
Between Worlds, between hope. He tried to make it right to the edge to bounce back, and he just couldn't make it. The ult duration is actually really short as well for Aurora, so you've got to time it just so. And with Crimson down, this is really rough for Team Crimson. We just spoke about how he's the guy who's melting the front line. He's going to be the one to give that threat onto Cassante, give that threat onto Sejuani, which then unlocks Darkwings and Good Boy to find the back line. If Crimson's down, Hoarder and Will just get to play. There's not that much threat for them.
When they get to play, Mobility and Samikin are just smiling in the background as they're the double marksman behind a chunky front line. And by this point, it's a 4-item Zaya and a 3-item rapid-fire cannon completed for Samikin. This is the period of the game where people are so afraid of New Corki.
He's just getting to the point, especially the true damage buff that he got, I think is a massive part of the scaling strength of the Corki. It doesn't matter how you want to itemize. You look at double marksman comp and you're normally like, oh, just build armor and you can deal with it. But that doesn't work against Corki. He's doing true damage. He's doing some magic damage to you as well. And then, yeah, suddenly the itemization, it's health or bust at that point. Now, with the state of the game we're at right now, Dryden picked up. Baron is going to be the next objective. I expect to see the teams fight over. The last time Team Hoarder got it, they managed to break the mid lane inhibitor. So it does feel like if they get it this time, it might be enough to tip the game. With a 3K gold difference between the two teams right now, Team Crimson's not that far behind. Good Boy actually has 3 items. As a Jinx, you are online, ready to go. Void Staff being picked up for Darkwing should be helpful. It still isn't the best tank buster champion necessarily, but it should at least hurt when you can land some of those orbs.
And if you can get that first kill with Good Boy, assisting on it, you unleash the real power of any Jinx comp, getting that excited buff. So we'll see if Good Boy Company can go for that. But it's Dum Dum and Will that have always been looking for these engages. Kim down, slippery on the recon, able to slip out from the first one, but they don't have sideway pressure bot side. They've got supers to deal with in the mid lane. This is just really tough for Team Crimson to even hold the river right now.
Now looking in.
Especially if they just lose Kim down to Samikin deleting him. Bio goes all the way for Samikin and 1v1 with cease and desist. They knock down the Nautilus, so Dum Dum falls, but it's Mobility and Will once again just 2v1ing the Baron. And we've seen this story before. Hoarder on the flank trying to make sure Team Crimson does not chase down either of his double marksmen. And Hoarder's just playing Distractor once again. It feels like I'm watching the same movie. This time, Hoarder's just not all out. He does flash to get away from the first stun. Still 1 versus 4, and this time, RMC, they will turn, and they find Darkwings. Hoarder catches him out, and the marksman's damage is more than enough with Samikin. Just so powerful by this point. Bio falls. Good Boy trying to kite back, but it's not long for the world anymore. And with the Baroned up minion waves, Hoarder and Hoarder and his squad just claimed game 1 with a big-time win.
Golden Horde is charging into the base with the Baron buff as well. Both marksmen still alive. Crimson trying to hold. Kim Down actually respawned by the end of all that nonsense, but with the TP to keep the minion alive.
They're going to get at least 1 Nexus turn off of it. Still no Darkwings, still no Bio for another 10 seconds, and if they catch Crimson, that's game, and that's exactly what happens. The Blade Caller from Mobility to end the game, an absolutely flawless one from the former AoE 80 carry, 13-2-7 to bring Team Hoarder for a win.
And a literal solid start coming through from Team Hoarder right from the drop, right from the get-go. It was very evident what they wanted to do, have a very strong front line, play front to back, get both your marksmen online. Mobility and Dum Dum, I really want to highlight them because as much as we thought, okay, we'll get some ganks going, get things going for your lanes, which don't necessarily have the best go buttons. It wasn't that. It was just Mobility and Dum Dum kind of crushing it right from the get-go and just winning out the 2v2. Look at the damage coming through. I'm actually surprised a little bit that the amount of damage Mobility did was not higher considering how the game started out.
I agree with you, RMC, but I'm also behind you, all the analysis you just gave out. Dum Dum Mobility were really important. I know we teased before going into this game that some of the notes from the coaches we talk about during the game, after the game. I think there's no better example of doing that than Dum Dum. I mean, his note was find spots to sync with jungle after early game. How many times do we see Dum Dum and Will just moving around the map, constantly picking off, most of the time, Crimson? Just really further accentuates how good of a game, how much more impressive Dum Dum is continuing to be in this Combine.
Yeah, not only did he connect with the jungler, Will, in terms of being proactive on the plays, being around the objectives in time, but even with Hoarder, some of those dives where Dum Dum went in, it was Hoarder backing it up right from the get-go, and Hoarder was already there, ready to go. Make that play, just follow up and make sure that there's another meat shield to go with you. I'm absolutely loving that sort of synergy we're seeing come through from Dum Dum with some of these players already. On the Team Crimson side, though, you know what? You can still see how much damage Crimson managed to put out in that top lane. And that wasn't just a 1v1 situation where he's pumping all the damage onto Cassante. Horde was doing a great job not interacting with the Aurora in the early game. Not getting poked out, just kind of CSing. A lot of that damage came later in team fights. And Crimson was a bit of a double-sided blade, I think, this game. Yes, when he was on, he was able to pump up damage. He was able to shred the front line. That was what Team Crimson needed as a whole. But him getting caught out on the side also felt like those were the windows of opportunity that Team Horde was really able to exploit and go take objectives and really snowball the game from those catches on the sideline.
Certainly feels like RMC Team Hoarder were much better at executing the draft that they gave themselves. And like you mentioned, proactivity across the rift. They were always just really quick and decisive to a lot of their plays. So, but luckily, it's a combine that, Parth behind Side.gg has said many times, winning does not really matter. It's about learning. So we're going to go to a short break here, an extended break, because these players are breaking down the very game you just watched now. A lot of notes, I'm sure, come to the Team Crimson side as well, and we'll see how they respond when we come back for game number 2. Sides, I believe, will be swapped, and we'll have 10 fresh champions for you guys there. So we'll see you after an extended break. Don't go anywhere.
moving on. Keep moving on. And they say I have a grim sense of humor.
Appreciate everybody's patience at home as we are getting set for our second game of the 3-game block, day 8, Sada.gg Path2Pro Combine. But before we hop into draft, our man RMC here made some lovely statistics, pulled some lovely stats about the players today, and there are some that I think are very fitting after that game number 1. I actually find it very, very not surprising that Dum Dum is leading most assists per game with this guy's intuition that he has to be part of every single fight possible, RMC.
Yeah, it does feel like Team Hoarder has a lot of benefits from these stats. So these are stats leading up to today, not including the game we just saw.
Yes.
And you can see between the two junglers, Will tends to get stuck in a little bit more, and we saw exactly that with the Sejuani, though it did feel like Dum Dum was leading the charge. Will was often there beside him. Bio, on the other hand, wasn't quite able to get stuck in game 1, and that kind of matches up the numbers. The AD carries, both Good Boy and Mobility, in the Combine so far, are pretty even when it comes to damage per minute. And for AD carries, that's probably one of your most important stats. How much damage can you actually pump out? So it surprised me a lot in the laning phase when Mobility and Dum Dum just kind of took over the lane. And I feel like that has to do with that bottom part of the stat sheet you see at the bottom there. Dum Dum, 2.55 KDA and 72.7% kill participation. He's the highest in the league, not just among sports, but of all players right now. Pretty high vision score, really high assists per game as well. And that game, he died a lot, sure, but he got a lot of assists. He was kicking off a lot of action. And in this bot lane, because of that, one name you don't see there, Kim Down, I feel like has to step up a lot more in game 2. He has to match what Dum Dum is putting down to help really support Good Boy in that AD carry matchup.
Could not agree more. And it'll be interesting because we get to see 10 new champions. I know myself and RMC are very, almost like a little bit, I wouldn't say sick of it. We're very used to Fearless by this point. So, and I would argue, you know, a place like this is where Fearless can serve probably its best purpose to allow these players to like flesh out their champion pools and more importantly, maybe play some compositions that they, you know, not play the same composition every single time. Like we like to see Hoarder's team not play the 3 big tanks in the front line, double marksman front to back. Let's see if they get a little more creative as I believe Game 2 draft is officially underway here.
Fair enough. And into Game 2, the sides will be swapped. It will be Team Crimson on the blue side, Team Hoarder on the red side this time. And right from the get-go, we're already seeing changes in the bans a little bit, at least for the side of Team Crimson. They're starting with a Jax ban, something that was completely unbanned in Game 1.
We'll see how effective Hoarder can be. Speaking of, flexibility, Hoarder, I'm a little sad that there's a Jax ban because I think Hoarder's played a very mean Jax and he has for a very long time. But I want to see Hoarder play, not the super weak side champion. He did a very good job, very proficient. You mentioned it. Didn't give a lot of avenues to Crimson to get very far ahead in the Aurora. And then I was very impressed by how he was also not afraid of dying. We saw him all out. I think it was Good Boy to force all of Team Crimson to chase him when his team had Baron to get out. And he also was the one to find the catch on to Darkwings, who was basically deathless by that point to win the game. So I'd like to see Hoarder, maybe a little more agency as we see the rest of these bands come across through. Skarner, Ash, Ivern, and Hui to round out Phase 1.
Okay, so that's really interesting. That means the Seraphine and Udyr that Team Crimson banned in Game 1 is up and available on the table. And with the Udyr as well, we're talking about Hoarder. Sure, Cassante might not be available, but if you want an absolute unit which can still do similar things to what he did in Game 1, Udyr is up and available, can still be flexed into the jungle for Will as well. Instead, no. Okay, I mean, Team Crimson starting things off with the Rumble. That's Crimson's most played top laner so far in the Combine.
Was pretty impressive. Saw him get a couple of pretty good equalizers. I believe in a game lost the last time I got to see Crimson in a different set. Does give the counter pick over to Hoarder. I can now totally see why they banned away the Jax Team Crimson, as that would just be the quickest lock-in of this Combine if they left that Jax up, let me tell you.
Udyr,
Oh, there you go.
Yep, that was an answer to Rumble when he was OP. It didn't exactly win the matchup in the 1v1, but it was able to hold even, and now that Rumble has been nerfed in the top lane, I do like the Udyr side of things. Again, it can still be flexed into the jungle for Will, but I think it's perfectly comfortable in the top lane. I'm very curious what else they want to pair with this Udyr, though. He does do well if you've got other carries, especially hyper carries in the back line, who like that tanky front line.
Orianna going to be the blind here, so puts a lot of onus on Will to pick a champion to synergize here with Samikin.
Yeah, for sure. Udyr not exactly the best ball delivery system in the game. Yeah, you can run it with burst stance, you can't really stop him, but that backline access is not there. Also, not really that hyper carry we were talking about in the backline, which just wants a meaty front shield. So the AD carry pick coming through from mobility will be one to keep an eye on with the Jinx already taken off the table. Now, for the side of Team Crimson, what do they want to answer with? I feel like you don't necessarily need to pick your mid laner. I say that as Tristana gets locked in. She's still... Okay, I've heard and seen Tristana go to the bot lane more frequently since I think it was 2 patches ago. But Darkwing's played an awful lot of Tristana in Spring and Summer. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's the one picking this into the Orianna. It is a champion who can kind of hop and play away from the ball, get that kill threat down as well still in the 1v1, despite the slight nerfs she got in terms of the solo lane matchup.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. I think this is a Tristana Darkwing's answer. I watched him play a couple of games into the Orianna, so it's going to be Darkwing's trying to slam Samikin early enough and then just snowball at Tristana that becomes very, very annoying to deal with if they can get ahead. Rel going to be locked in here, though, for Kim down as well. Going to continue with a very different type of engaged champion, one that he's a little bit more comfortable on than I'd say the Rakan.
Fair enough, and the Magnet Storm pairing with the Rumble also incredibly strong. When you see something like an Udyr and Orianna as well, they're not the most mobile of champions. You don't have problems engaging, kind of just charging at them with that Rel. The Kindred, though, for Will. Now, this is an old one. When I think of Will, I still think of his old Kindred, his old Viego, massive carry champions. And I do really like the pickup into something like a Rel and a Rumble as well. Big wombo AoE combos, that's fine. Just put down the Lamster Spit, let your team play through that. So it can be a very, very strong tool. You have to be careful about not anti-synergying with the Shockwave, though, but I have no doubt that won't be an issue. Samikin and Will are good enough players that it should not even be a concern.
One issue is just going to be... I guess Dum Dum's going to have to play something that's going to be the ball delivery system, or you kind of self-insert it with Samikin. Like you're mentioning, obviously this comp so far from Team Crimson is still going to be pretty close range, so it's not going to be too difficult to throw down some pretty powerful shockwaves, but you made the great point. It's the catch-22. It's the Magnet Storm with the equalizer. Man, we're dead. The burst is there. We're done. No. Salamandre's Respite, delay the fights, make them go on for a lot longer. which is really going to make me, which can work. I'm just very interested to see how the bot lane rounds out, because it is a pretty pivotal point, I think, for the comp that Team Horde have drafted to like finally fit the puzzle pieces in. Like they're starting to wiggle in, but there's still a couple of rough edges. I want to see it rounded out by what Mobility and Dum Dum put together.
Agreed. For Team Crimson, though, for now, they've banned out the Alistar. If they want to keep removing engage options, they should probably take out the Leona as well. Nautilus and what's the other one? Rakan were played last game, so those are two of the big engage supports already taken off the table. And if you take those off, maybe we see something like Kalista Renata be that initiate the ball delivery system for themselves. And as for Team Crimson, I'm still not. They went with the Braum. Okay, they are respecting Dum Dum's Braum a lot. Leona is the perfect ball delivery system. If you want to go the hyperscaling AD carry, then it's probably going to be a Leona pickup.
We'll have to see. I bet the best game I saw from Mobility before the last game, the best game I saw from Mobility was a Zeri game where he was very, very powerful. And like you mentioned, RMC, this is why they pay you the big bucks around here. Just predicting another pick for Team Hoarder.
I get paid 14 gold per round, man. we're worth very little. I think Quacks told me he prefers siege minions. That hurt, brother. As the side of Team Crimson right now, I'm curious if they are. Well, they're looking for a jungler at this point. We saw the Xinjiao and the Wukong taken away, and Bio strikes me as more of an aggressive carry style jungler. But I would actually like to see some AOE, something like a J4 maybe to come through to really set up for the Rumble. They've gone with the Seraphine. So that is... Now, the question is that Trist mid or Seraphine mid? Because Seraphine Rel is a bot lane, and one that I hate. It's really obnoxious. The Rel roams for the most part, and Seraphine just kind of goes econ mode in the bot side. As long as she doesn't get engaged on, she's kind of good to go and just hold that lane with wave clear.
I like this gamble that it's a Seraphine bot, because I think that you understand as Team Crimson that you're not going to get like a really early game punishing AD carry from Mobility here with the comp they've drafted. It's much more likely, I think, we get a more hyperscale AD carry like the Zeri. And then by that point, you really just can't punish the Seraphine at all. It's really difficult to really get rid of her with her wave clear. The Viego for Bio, that is a shot call and certainly fits his play style. Carry-oriented jungler, and he's going to try to put it on display next to Dark Wings.
Yeah, so kind of the opposite of what I was expecting to see a little bit compositionally.
It's Graves.
Okay.
Actually, same logic, honestly, for Bio though.
You know what? I like the Graves a lot more actually than I would have liked the Viego, because Viego is very bursty, and I feel like it gets countered by the Kindred. Not to mention, who are you bursting down right now? Like Udyr gets really tanky, Leona gets really, really tanky. Maybe you can go for the Orianna, but if you're blowing all the burst to lower the Orianna to an executionable health level, then you're not pumping it down on the marksman, whatever it is. And in this case, they go with the Ezreal for Mobility, living up to the name, and a champion that can still pump out the damage, is very, very safe. I'm looking at what Team Crimson have drafted, and I'm not seeing very many ways to threaten this Ezreal. Your best bet is probably the Viego, but if he goes in without backup, especially into something like the Kindred with the Lamb's Respite available.
So apparently we're getting... So it's not a Viego, it's a Graves. And then it sounds like Mobility's actually playing Kai'Sa. So this is a... You know what's funny? RMC, I was able to cast an ACL series with it was Old Miss's team, right? And they accomplished the Shogo ball delivery system with a very similar comp to this, where they put the ball on Shogo, and Asila was like, "Are you sure?" He said, "Just put it on me, and I'll click R." And so maybe we'll see that as the ball delivery system. More likely the Leona though.
Yeah, you know, this does change things up a lot for Team Hoarder, though. The Kai'Sa instead of an Ezreal kind of goes the literal opposite way, right? Like, Ezreal and Kai'Sa are doing completely different things. Ezreal wants to kite around the side of the fights. He wants to play safe. Kai'Sa wants to get literally ball deep with the Orianna ball in this case to kind of kick things off. And it's a lot riskier into something like a Seraphine, into something like a Rel. Rel can absolutely mess you up. If you go Killer Instinct in, get caught in Magnet Storm, that is a free Kai'Sa barbecued up by the Rumble for Crimson. So a big call from Mobility, a huge confidence vote to go with this Kai'Sa, and this makes this game a lot more interesting to me. With the Ezreal, I would have heavily favored Team Hoarder's draft, but with the Kai'Sa, it could still go either way, and if anything, I'm looking out at your junglers a little bit more. Will, with the Lamb's Respite, can you land it? Can you be that safe AD carry if Mobility gets deleted right from the get-go? And for Bio on this Viego, or this Graves, pardon me, it's better choice to me than the Viego because it's not as one-dimensional, right? You're not banking on resets into a Kindred. Now you've got that early game strength. You can force ganks, and you've got enough damage to finish off the squishier members on the other team. But you can also act as a secondary carry, albeit a much tankier one that can also still face tank damage. So Bio has all the tools in his kit right now, barring hard CC. His team has hard CC in spades. I want to see Bio have more impact this game compared to what he did in game 1.
Super well said, because last game he was the facilitator, the enabler. Didn't work out too well. Now they're drafting a team around Bio. Going to be a very, very big spot for this guy as we do get to the client-side draft. So, we can kind of talk about maybe what we saw from game 1 to game 2 changes from these people. We talked about Bio. The name that I don't think we're seeing much of a change of, I think Hoarder is still playing the weak side king, kind of just I'm going to be a frontliner, not really give a lead over to Crimson. But it's also, I think the top side for Team Crimson is really important. I think it's really imperative that Crimson can find a lead for the Rumble to be very powerful, and then the Graves. Who are you looking for, you saw something different from in game 1 on the Team Hoarder side here, RMC?
Well, I think as much as, yes, you want to make sure the Rumble doesn't get a hit, especially in the early game when he spikes in the mid game and can take over, there is, with all the nerfs that came in for Rumble, Udyr can actually just flat out win that lane. And a lot of times when you pick the Udyr, you actually pick it to kind of dominate the top side, get a ton of pressure down, go invading into your enemy jungler as well. Now, against the Graves, it is a little bit risky. There's a lot of damage which can chunk through an Udyr. Even, as amazing as he is, the dad bot that he has built to soak damage, that is, premium. That is pure machismo on that Udyr. But if it's isolated, if Bio doesn't pay attention to the top side, if Crimson and Hoarder get left in 1v1, I want to kind of see Hoarder take over, because he had to play weak side king. He had to take a lot of abuse in game 1. He doesn't have to do that anymore in game 2. And if anything, especially with Will on the Kindred, he's got a lot more mobility. We've seen Kindred's early levels get a lot of cheeky invades off, a lot of cheeky ganks off. Rumble is squishy. You can get that cheeky gank off, get a cheeky first blood, accelerate that Kindred going from that top side.
I think it's so poetic. I know you guys didn't hear at home while we were on break, but RMC was like, I want to kind of focus on the junglers for game number 2 if we can. And of course, in pure draft fashion, the game you want to focus on junglers. Arguably, both teams are drafting for their junglers to be the carries. It's just very poetic. And talking about seeing a different side of some of these players in this matchup, Good Boy on the Jinx, couple of mispositioning errors, was still able to get some decent damage down, had some kills, but now is in a completely different ballpark now. You are set up on this Seraphine. It's survive lane, farm like you're playing Farming Simulator, and then hit these clutch encores, which will be very interesting to see if he can play this sort of style, because I do remember hearing about Good Boy's Seraphine when I was told about this player. I just haven't gotten to see it until now.
Yeah, because Good Boy has barely played in 2024. The last time he played was, I think, in 2023 with Paucus as his support, who's now actually coaching Team Hoarder for today's event. So, a bit of rivalry or relationship problems there, I guess. But the Seraphine, completely different from the Jinx, as you pointed out, Slayer. It's almost like a complete 180 in terms of what you want to do. You're no longer the big carry. Like you said, you're kind of left on your own a lot. We might see a lot of roaming come out from Kim down instead, and just leaving Good Boy to just survive. He doesn't need to farm as expertly as he did on the Jinx, and he doesn't need to play as aggressively. It's all about that setup this game.
Well, we're setting up for a very different looking game number 2 compared to our first one of the block, but similarity is coming your guys' way. We have another spectator delay to sit through, so take a couple short minutes to just take a break, recollect yourself, and we'll be live from the same battle arena you all know, love, and hate for game number 2 of the Day 8 Sato.gg Path2Pro Combine. We'll see you in a few. Game number 2 of 3, folks. Day 8, Block 1, Path2Pro Combine. We saw a lot of heroes in game number 1. Markedly a huge game from Mobility. And a big performance from Darkwings in the loss as well. Dum Dum was all over the place on the Nautilus. Could do very similar things with the Leona. But the focus is going to be on these junglers. How often in a tier 2 to tier 3 setting do you get to see Graves and Kingdred players go at each other?
My focus was on the jungle Slayer, but now it's kind of on Mobility's Kaisa as well, because that pick did catch me very much off guard. For now, though, the junglers still want us to focus on them, as Bio and Will are just trading away. And for Will, I really like the way he used the Wolf to kind of control that zone around the mid lane. It almost acts like a ward. Bio stepped up and immediately got chunked. Vision was given away, and Bio opting to trade just felt like, okay, you know what, I'm just going to show you I'm going to duel. I don't actually think he wins out that trade by any means.
Order likes his trade to Crimson. Able to get a ton of damage down. Oof, onto the Rumble, who's already down to half HP. Darkwing's also going to face a Dum Dum Zenith Blade as he is picked up right where he left off from game number 1. And we talked about leaving the Seraphine on an island. I didn't think it'd start literally at level 1 as we have an invade to try and steal away Bio's blue buff. But Bio is behind them, stealing away Will's red buff as we speak.
And surely both these teams know this. Like they had eyes on Bio and knew he dashed over. So either Bio recalled and is going to have a very, very late start, or he's in your jungle. Dum Dum goes in, spots him out. Bio will be able to secure a red buff, but can he get more? Samakin getting clipped.
There we go. Crash down. Samikin going to have to expend the flash at the very least, but Bio's going to follow him with the Dark Harvest and the Q. It's more than enough damage. A dream start for Team Hoarder, or excuse me, Team Crimson, as they get Bio first blood.
A dream start for Bio specifically, this massive
happening?
carry player. Chaos is happening. Go over the wall.
I mean, Hoarder, okay, so Hoarder should be dead. Darkwings is jumping on top of Will, who has to flash back. Him down with the crash down, but it's Darkwings that's far too low. Hoarder pops the ghost as Darkwings flashes, but Dum Dum's going to follow. Hoarder one more auto. Doesn't get it. Darkwings is alive. They give the kill to Mobility, who has the lethal tempo stack. Samikin's Revenge Part 2. Will gets a kill and a stack. What is this early game, RMC?
This is an exhibition, Slayer, from start to finish. The players know that they're on the line, and they showed us a good macro game in game 1. They showed us more measured play in game 2. They are showing us hands and a willingness to scrap. I love it. It's not just all hands either, because there is a lot of decision making that has to go into this early game. We talk about the fact that Good Boy was left on a literal island. It wasn't just Team Crimson leaving him alone. Team Hoarder as well decided, no, we are just playing completely for this top side. And the choice from Bio to take that red buff instead of resetting and kind of playing defensively, great. The option for all these supports to stick around, where they're going to go, has been huge. Mobility has no flash now. Kim down, not quite able to catch up, but it's still not standard lane assignments. Supports are still roaming.
They're both level 1. Somebody please get my support XP. Starving. All right, he's going to get all 3 of these charges to try and get some XP going. And what's most intriguing about it was I thought, oh man, Bio's about to take this game over. He had the perfect jungle start. And then Will's like, hold my beer. And he gets 1-0-1 start with a mark. He's got a mark before he can even take a Scuttle Crab mark. There was no Scuttle Crab mark because Will got his first mark from a champion pre-waves crashing.
Yeah, back at level 1, Will secured that. And even now, as things pan out, we're kind of seeing that both teams are still opting to go a lot for map movements. I love that Samikin recognizes I might get ganked here. I'm going to be honest, I don't even think that distance from the turret is safe. Bio has a lot of bursts that can come through. Kim Down actually went over the wall early, the Hex Flash, not going to find anything. So Samikin might be baited, lulled into a false sense of safety here.
One of the things I was going to talk about before this game turned into the absolute opposite of normal League of Legends was that Samikin would have to be safe in the early phase. They're really accentuating that as Will is in a 1v1 with Bio, but Bio's friend showed up first. Hoarder trying to roam over, but recognizes this is a 4v2 he absolutely doesn't want, and Good Boy's going to land the root. Hoarder is flashed, so this is going to be another kill. They're going to give over to Darkwings this time to try and get the snowball going back for Team Hoarder, or Crimson. I gotta stop.
Team Hoarder isn't done yet. They are looking for a pick of their own to equalize things. Great play from Kim Down as the tankiest member of the team in the early game. He's the one walking, face checking the bushes, making sure that the MVP, Darkwings, gets escorted safely back to lane.
See what the repercussions are for leaving Good Boy on that island because, I mean, this guy, listen, you'd be in heaven if this was any other champion but Seraphine. He would have like 3 turret plates. He'd have a lot more items on a damage-dealing AD carry, but the fact that it's the Seraphine does kind of limit how much of a lead he's been able to get. Oh boy, Kim down. Good night. There's no way out. That's just Death Brush. Welcome to a Death Brush.
Order just running down Good Boy.
I just think yeah, he's too safe. There's not enough damage for Hoarder, and Good Boy has a level lead, item lead. He'll happily have to reset. He doesn't have teleport at the very least.
Okay, and now Crimson, learning from what happened to Hoarder earlier. Oh, yeah, good point. Mark being picked up by Will. That stack and Mark is a bit dangerous. Okay, so after the sort of early game has broken down, it is still Team Hoarder with an advantage when all is said and done. And both teams have been very proactive, but Team Hoarder remains the one, it feels like, to try and get their jungler ahead, whereas Bio, he's not getting as much help from his team anymore. We're seeing Kim Down rotate to Darkwings and Crimson to help the lanes instead. Bio is just doing his own thing, and on the Graves, that's not necessarily the worst thing to happen. Graves, very independent champion with a lot of agency. He's taking the dragon right now, solo, uncontested, but I need to see Bio play to his lanes as well as Kim Down, not just kind of doing his own thing for the entire early game.
I'm definitely worried because, you know, if you let a Kingdra get accelerated, like pure champion stats, oh my god, here we go, Darkwing's dive. Great flash from Samikin, outplayed. Ooh, Encore,
down?
Good Boy hits 2. They have the Ignite on mobility as well. That's enough damage. We thought this Seraphine was way too passive. Exact opposite. Full pure aggression. Gets the double root down. Good Boy Seraphine is something for the eyes to see.
Okay, Mobility and Dum Dum kind of getting caught a little bit off guard. The shoe's on the other foot from game 1, and this was the concern we had with the Kai'Sa. Now, in lane as it is, if you start getting beaten by the Seraphine in lane, it does not get better for you in the team fight. So for Mobility, a bit of a reality check. Got to be a bit more respectful in terms of how that plays out. You don't want to beat the Seraphine anymore. I did want to highlight the mid lane as well. Samikin ended up going down somehow. Despite flashing over the wall, I thought he was safe. Maybe it was the explosive shot, or I don't know if Darkwings had red buff. Something ticked over, and Samikin went down. Darkwings didn't burn his flash. He did go down, but he'll still get back to lane. He'll still be fine. He'll still get pressure, and most importantly, Samikin was denied of the wave in the mid lane.
I'm very intrigued. I wonder if... No, because Bio didn't get the kill. I wonder if he smoke screened over the wall because there were Raptors there, and the Raptors finished off the... That would have been something very intriguing, but we'll never know, unfortunately, as the two supports get into an entanglement. Bio nearby, but not going to be able to cut down the path. And I want to revisit that conversation that I got cut off on with you, RMC. Will accelerated with the Kingdra. He's going to get that range boost much quicker. And I feel like that's going to be really problematic for Bio, who is just going to be outranged a lot quicker than expected by this Kingdra.
Yeah, I think it's going to be everybody's problem as Will accelerates. Kim Down, though, finding mobility, not finding mobility.
Flash. Doesn't land the Lance stun, so doesn't get the crash down stun, and now they're going for Dum Dum. Darkwing's able to jump on out. As battle lines are being drawn, the red buff in the middle of the scuffle, not very happy to see so many people in his part of the jungle. You won't have to watch anybody die. He's the only one that will be sacrificed.
Yeah, and for Team Crimson, they have to be very careful about that push. Bio, we were talking about him, has actually fallen behind Will. Will somehow power farmed, and his team played for him, right? Like we were talking about how they got him all the marks. They got him all the farm as well, whereas Bio doing his own thing didn't have the backup. He's down a level, and with Lamb's respite up, that's the critical ultimate. Will's still on the hunt. Bio doesn't hit 6.
He doesn't hit 6, and look at the damage Will's pumping out. Bio's just dead. The Wolf gonna claim it, but it's Good Boy and Kim Down that are once again the rescue for Team Crimson as they find another kill on the Dum Dum. Problem is, Will is here, and he's hunting for more stacks. Mobility, not able to cut down the avenue to get close enough, so Good Boy and Kim Down will survive, but we are getting some clear strength points for both these squads.
And of course, we already talked about Will being a massive strength point for the side of Team Hoarder, but for Team Crimson, their strength point feels a lot like their lanes at this point. Speaking mid and bot, but mid under fire. Darkwing still has flash, still has Buster Shot.
Yep, flashes, Buster Shots Will away. They get the slow with the Wolf, the speed up, and the flash from Will. He wants Darkwings' number, and a couple more autos is going to get his. Will goes on a rampage. This is Will's game to take over. Boy, is he doing it.
Okay, and it's funny too, if we look at the compositions, we talked a lot about Team Hoarder, and even though we identified Will and his Kindred as a potential big carry for the team, the Kindred actually is the champion that doesn't quite fit the rest of this team. The whole team kind of goes with the Kai'Sa. They're a very strong dive composition with the Kai'Sa, with the Leona, Orianna to a lesser extent, but the ball both the shield and the shockwave assists with the burst and the potential dive. Kindred doesn't want to dive normally. But because Will is now so far ahead, the identity of the comp has changed a little bit. It is kind of about the Kindred. It is kind of about the team fight and the catch potential of that team.
Oh, good boy. Mistimed flash there. I mean, there was full might of the Leona and Kai'Sa with all ultimates available. Good boy felt as good as dead once Dum Dum set up the flank. And now the biggest gold factor for Team Crimson just gave away a big shutdown to mobility of all people.
That's rough to see. And that, I think, was why they drafted the Kai'Sa potentially. Much more in favor of the Ezreal. But the Kai'Sa and Leona has so much more dive potential in a 2v1 situation. And they finally caught Kim down, roaming out. Good boy without the protection of either jungler or support. And that will have to be a bit of a wake-up call. Good boy, though, going to teleport right back into lane. Not going to miss out much CS. But I don't feel like CS is the big thing about this Seraphine. It's really more about the lane pressure and what she can bring for you in skirmishes and team fights.
This is a big spot, though, RMC. First set of grubs went over to Will, who's very far accelerated, but teleport advantage is with Team Crimson. And Hoarder knows that he's already roaming up here. Does seem like Team Hoarder want to make a contest for these grubs, see if they get some mites, play towards Will's power strength. They will give away the first mite. They can still play for more with the grubs, and after seeing the first mite go down, that's all that Team Crimson wanted. They just wanted to prevent the double mites as they'll succeed 5 grubs to Will.
There will still be Void Mites going the way of Team Hoarder, but like you said, it's not Grubageddon quite all the way there. That is a lot of resources Team Crimson committed to make that play happen. They called everybody up into that top side. Came down, unfortunately, had to tank the brunt of it. So they will kind of lose out a little bit on priority, and I'm not confident it's worth it necessarily. The amount of damage 5 Void Grubs can do is still a lot, and because you make that play on the Void Grub side, we're not going to see a Void Grub Dragon kind of equal trade come through. Dragon is up, Will is going to be there, and Team Hoarder should have a much better time at this bot side objective. I don't think Team Crimson want to fight it, despite the fact that normally with the Rumble, you want to team fight on the side where Rumble was at.
It's such a weird spot that the early game put us into. And the one prevailing thought that I can tell is Will knows that he's just so much more ahead than anybody else. Hamakin dropping the shockwave there, trying to see if he can execute the Dark Wings. But yeah, Will picks up that dragon. He's got the Kraken Slayer done. I mean, he's got to be nearly at that first upgrade. As Good Boy's looking to make a play with Crimson here. The Void Mites make sure turret aggro does not go to Hoarder, though, as he pops the ghost and tries to do what all Uter's do and run away. But Crimson slams him down to find the kill. Kim down, potentially with a catch on to Samakin. Oh, nobody was close. Kim down's bluffing. Oh.
Bio, he's speeding for the top side, but he's not going to be able to get there in time, unfortunately, even with the Ghost Blade pop. And now we have a bit of a race for first brick, but mobility has been chipping away, and with the Void Grubs as well, this should go Team Hoarder's way, unless Dum Dum is not helping out at all in bot side push.
It's a race. All right, 2 plates on the top side. I think it's gonna be mobilities though. They are juggling the wave, and there we go. First turret over to Team Hoarder.
I was a little bit concerned when I saw Dum Dum was just waiting on the side for an ambush the entire time. I was like, you kind of need to help out. But yeah, turret's going to be traded on both side lanes. Hoarder going to come in just in time to see the architecture fall. Not going to be able to find anything on the back of it. And that's fine. If we look at how the gold gets split, mobility gets the bulk of the gold on that side. Crimson and Good Boy get gold. And let's talk a little bit about Good Boy and the Seraphine. I really like what Team Hoarder identified, that, hey, there's a Seraphine. Her strong point is that she doesn't need gold. Her weak point is that she doesn't need gold. Because now Good Boy's accelerated. Good Boy gets plates, Good Boy gets kills. But is he going to be able to carry the fights the same way a marksman traditionally would? Probably not. You're still looking at Darkwings and Bio to be the ones to do that. And Bio's behind. Darkwings is still ahead. That's good. But it's really the Darkwings show as the game goes on.
Certainly. And even that damage, there can be some on Seraphine, but there's the gotcha of the Lamser's Respite as Samakin is getting dove by Bio, Darkwings, and Kim down. Really good job juggling turret aggro there to give Bio another very pivotal kill on his Graves.
Fair enough. We just talked about the fact that Bio and Darkwings have to be guns to carry. Good individually, but what's the cost? You lost out Herald on the other side. Now Will is there. Interestingly enough, didn't actually ride Herald in. We'll see whether or not that comes back to bite them as they don't get the first damage down. But yeah, they're going for another charge here.
Well, they're going to get it. But Crimson was setting a trap. There's the Encore into the Equalizer combo. The Respite doesn't even come out. Shut down from Will. What a trap laid by Good Boy and company.
I am shocked, Slayer. The CC chain was just too much. The damage was too much. Will didn't even get the chance to use his ultimate.
You lose the mid turret. And this is a very powerful point. I know statistics will always back the team that can get all 3 tier 1 turrets down first, and at 15 minutes is quite impressive for Team Order.
Fair enough. Personally, I think whoever gets the tier 1 mid turret down faster often gets
Don't tell LS that, RMC. He'll get pissed.
I'll say it to him. He said enough things about Brazil that I've been pissed, so we'll equalize that out. I do think, though, opening up that mid lane turret often gives you a lot more control on the map. So I really appreciate that Team Hoarder. While that play was happening on the top side, while it's being traded back on the bot side by Team Crimson, Mobility and DumDum were able to secure that mid side and open that up a little bit more, especially when they were ahead. Now, they aren't ahead anymore. Great on Team Crimson to be able to equalize things. And I now want to see Team Crimson look to contest these objectives. We've seen the strength of the Encore equalizer combo on 1 player, 2 players. Now get it on all 5 members and you can just straight up win a team fight and accelerate the game.
Looks really wonderful when there's no Lam's respite. I definitely agree
True.
with that point, but we'll see if Will can be that X factor on a comp where he is the most interesting piece around the dive comp. DumDum, though, getting dove on by Kimdown and company, does expend the flash, but this is just a wrecking ball with the Seraphine you expect, and Crimson's going to pick up the kill with that Dragon. It's still about a minute out.
Yeah, absolutely no major spells burnt from the side of Team Crimson to facilitate that pick onto DumDum. In fact, Rumble's equalizer wasn't even up. So getting that pick now gives full control over the Dragon Pit to Team Crimson. Team Hoarder will have to walk in blind, and I don't know if they have the tools to do it. DumDum's not tanky enough. Hoarder also not tanky enough.
Oh, with the mites, this turret's down, even with the equalizer, so it comes off cooldown and is used to try and clear out a wave that does not save the turret.
That's an interesting choice. Considering we just set up about the fact that, hey, Team Crimson can look at Dragon and teamfight there with the equalizer.
Yeah, right?
You don't have the equalizer anymore.
Oh, DumDum. Hey, we love accelerated blast plants.
Okay, is it enough though? Ward gets instantly cleared. They don't have to burn anything for it. There's still full control by Team Crimson in the area. Hoarder though is bot side by. Oh,
he popped the Yomo. It's like he wanted to fight, but he was all alone up there and got a bit of poke from Will, who's trying to use his range advantageously. Teleport coming back through Crimson. Does not have the equalizer. Kimdown goes in with the crash down. They're going for DumDum, but they're allowing Mobility to ststack up his passive stack. Hoarder in the middle gets back to the Lamser's respite, and they execute Kimdown on the outside. And now it's Team Hoarder. They're trying to throw their big punch. Will and Samikin on the front lines. Darkwing's having to hop on out to safety, but the Void Seeker does hit him. Mobility trying to use the blast cone to get close enough. The speed up from Samikin is going to get him the kill, a double, as he executes Darkwings and gives control to Team Hoarder after the fight.
And the equalizer lives up to its name. It gave and it took away. In this case, it wasn't there and it took away. Team Crimson was not able to find the critical fight, was not able to layer the CC. Kimdown going in, didn't have good boy to back it up, and unfortunate for Bio and Darkwings, they get pushed out. These marksmen were not able to stay in the fight, whereas you contrast that to what Team Hoarder was able to do. The Lamb's Respite finally coming in was clutch, was critical, and allowed the carries, Will, Samikin, Mobility, to cycle back in and out and make sure that they're pumping out damage safely. They win the fight, they win the Dragon to boot as well.
My favorite part about that fight was Hoarder teleporting in to like 5 people, running his like 600 move speed around everybody, popping his ult, and then just barely got back to the Lamb's Respite before he died. Just perfectly calculated. That's how you play Udyr, folks. You just turn your brain off and run around and hope you don't die.
I don't know, man. Hoarder gets to turn his brain off because his instincts are that finely honed, I guess. Because if I tried to do that, even with calculation, I don't think I'm coming back out the other end. Hoarder didn't even really have tank items. He's got an Abyssal Mass. That's about it.
He's playing a very, simplistic but also important role in these first 2 games of guy who sits on front line and has to see how long he can go without dying. And it's working. It's working very well. He is playing this role well. Another game where he's stayed ahead in CS in a matchup to Crimson and been a lot more threatening in the side lanes.
Yeah, this game, Crimson, unfortunately, with the Rumble, didn't get that early lead. I think he did well for himself, and especially in the team fights, but in the 1v1, it's just not really been working out. And I don't know if it really gets better for Rumble as this game goes on once more items start to come through. Will Tagging up Good Boy. Does have to be a
He's gotta be
little bit
careful.
careful, though.
Oh, flashes over
He's
the
out.
Encore. Kip Down still gets the crash through, and there are no lambs. There's respite. The CC chains enough once again. Will dies with ultimate up, and now Dum Dum's gonna be the next target. Shockwave from Sam Kid looking for the turn.
Mobility?
Dum Dum able to avoid the collateral damage. How is Dum Dum alive? Because it sets Mobility up to just crush the fight on the backside. Hoarder playing pressure Soaker 9000 on the other side of the side lane is in a 1v1 Dark Wings. He's pulled Bio into his trap and allows Samikin to flank around. And with the double shields, there's no chance for Bio to find the kill until he gets it off the last shot. Big heal for Bio, but Samikin's chasing him down. One more throw of the orb, and the shutdown is traded back to Team Hoarder.
What absolute madness, Slayer. A lot of these fights are devolving into just, you know, I'll call them mechanical feasts, but it feels like a bit of a poison chalice that they're eating from right now. It's a little bit risky, but we're seeing go back and forth, and I love that Team Hoarder, Team Hoarder just keeps coming out ahead, and props to Mobility and Dum Dum. You were shocked that Dum Dum lived. But that's the thing with Dum Dum right now and the way he's playing. Not just this game on the Leona, but last game on the Nautilus as well. He goes in. He doesn't care. If he dies, so be it. He set his team up already, and it's so much trust on his team to be able to follow through. And props to Mobility and Will, and Samikin as well. Like, they have been answering that trust. Every time Dum Dum goes in, the team is with him, and they are making the trades advantageous for themselves.
Yeah, and to further that confidence, you know, play from Dum Dum is Mobility. Like you're mentioning, it was like very much so just cohesive with Dum Dum's playstyle, because the Ezreal there does not blow up a fight like that at all. We'll see if Hoarder can maybe get the 1v1 win against Dark Wings. It's the tank running out of Marksman, and who wins? It's whoever gets on top of each other first, so you know exactly who's winning right now. Hoarder is on top, but Dark Wings gets the teleport in from Crimson. They're now going to try and chase down the Udyr, but that's breaking one of the very big laws of League of Legends, and it's costing Team Crimson a lot on the other side.
Yeah, that teleport from Crimson means he won't be available. You can see Hoarder had his TP as soon as Crimson showed up. He ran away TP top, and now they've got a numbers advantage. Did they find Kim down?
Kim down able to crash away. Good Boy trying to sit on the front line. It does have that Encore up. Let's see if he can get an angle on one of those carries. Double Solar Flare down from Dum Dum. They have Crimson locked up. The Shockwave combination is absolutely beautiful. That's textbook League of Legends, folks, and now the fight is completely won. Mobility flies in with the killer instinct, and they're going to mop the rest of Team Crimson up in a bucket.
And for Team Hoarder, that play felt so incredibly well planned. It ran like clockwork. The bait of the teleport into your own teleport into the answer to punish Team Crimson. And Team Crimson, unfortunately, in their split second of decision making, made the wrong choice. They tried to push up mid. They tried to say, okay, if we can't get Baron, we go for mid lane. But they hesitated. They looked at Baron, and that cost them everything. Their base is in shambles. This is a Baroned up team as 5 pushing in. 2 inhibitors are going to be down. Are they going to push for more, or are they going to reset?
What a turn from the early game, especially even for Team Hoarder. It was a beautiful start for Will. 4-0 and 1. And since then, you know, got caught a couple of times. He's still been playing well, but now it's just back to the Mobility Dum Dum show, RMC.
Yeah, and I just love the fact that Dum Dum Zero Hesitation just keeps going so aggressively. Again, the Solar Flare catching too is absolutely beautiful. And as a whole, this Team Hoarder, it just feels like everybody knows their roles. Now, I don't know if they communicated to each other like, okay, this is how our comp wants to run. Whether they set up that play saying like, hey, Hoarder's is going to split push bot as soon as somebody shows, we make this happen. But there's just zero hesitation coming through for these guys. And they're not a team of 5 who have played together all that much either.
No, really, not a lot of these people. The way these teams have been designed together, most of their time playing together has been this Combine exactly. And, well, we might have found a gem of a 5-stack on Team Hoarder, the way they've been able to play so far. Now it's just death by 1,000 cuts, RMC, threatening that last tier 3 turret.
Hoarder just running on by. Oh my goodness, Mobility!
No fear in this man. Dives to get the kill onto Bio, and that's going to open up the fight. It is a big equalizer and Kim down combination on top of Will, but the Shockwave catches Good Boy trying to get back. The Lamb's Respite prevents a burn down onto both Samikin and Will. And it might not be the third inhibitor needed. It's just going to be the base in shambles. Dum Dum and Will know this is the final blow. They're flashing into Team Crimson's base, teleporting on super minions. It's Dark Wings and Kim down to try and hold the line, but they're still 5 strong. Dark Wings have to put a ton of damage down. Already uses the Buster Shot, trying to use the Fountain to heal him, but its Nexus is going to be the cost. It's a 2-0 start to the block for Team Hoarder.
And I feel like we know how this goes, Slayer. Whichever team gets the 2-0 often goes for the 3-0. Momentum is building for Team Hoarder, but what... way the game kind of blew open, there was action nonstop from start to finish. But the early game, it felt blow for blow, and it was just literally like 1 or 2 plays, and all of a sudden Team Hoarder just ends the game. Just like look at that goal graph. You can see how even it was to like what was that, the 17-minute mark, and then
18,
yeah, 17, 18. Something goes wrong, and from there it's just straight off a cliff.
It's I already said it, but it's just so cool to see like the metaphorical handoff from the team, because the early game it was a lot of really good plays from Will. He was getting the marks well timed. He was getting these really smart invades into bio, finding kills in every lane to start that snowball. And then he just hands it off to Dum Dum and Mobility, who picked this super aggressive bottom lane combination again to see if they could steamroll once fights came around. And I mean, I don't even need to tell you that they did. You could just look at your screen.
Yeah. And for the side of Team Crimson, I do think Good Boy played incredibly well.
Yes.
I liked the idea they had for the Seraphine. Unfortunately, Team Hoarder just read that play and knew how to play around it. You can see how much damage Good Boy was still able to pump out on a non-traditional marksman, pardon me. And if anything, I'm looking at Bio a little bit too, because this game I think Bio did much better than he did on game 1. This Graves feels very much his speed, but they just couldn't quite connect as a team, as a whole. Like, it felt like sometimes Crimson's equalizer wasn't available when the team necessarily needed it. The encore that came out with Kim Down's Magnet Storm often didn't have enough follow-up to actually get any kills. Bio and Darkwings often kind of on a side lane split pushing or forced out before a fight kind of starts. Individually, Team Crimson played well. It just didn't connect as a 5. And at the end of the day, League of Legends is a 5-person game. It is 5v5, not 1v1.
And I want to give one more shout out to Hoarder, because I think one thing that has shown up between these two games is his side lane control. Because I think where Darkwings could have really taken a game over like this has just been that Tristana in top and bot side lanes that just breaks turrets down. Because he was, once again, like pretty gold efficient. The damage numbers were good, but Hoarder was constantly matching Darkwings, and you saw how pesky it got. I mean, the play that broke open this entire game was Hoarder forcing Darkwings to fight him so that he could teleport out and win the game, win that big Baron fight.
Yeah, and I wonder if whose call it was for the TP down from Crimson to back up Darkwings in that situation, because Darkwings wasn't winning the 1v1. So I kind of get that, okay, maybe you call for help, or maybe Crimson thought, okay, you need the help right there. But exactly as you said, Hoarder, it's not showing in his stats as much, but what he's doing is really affecting the map as a whole. The constant split push threat he's getting down. And say that's on champions like Cassante, Udyr.
Yeah.
Hoarder likes his carries. The Jax has been banned against him for a lot this season. I want to see something like his Camille, his Fiora potentially come in. And I want to see him get a chance to really pop off, not just be a huge macro threat, but be a huge micro threat, a split pushing threat, something that draws everybody into his line.
Certainly has already been a fun 2 games RMC where we've had some, I don't want to discredit them by saying like surprise really good performers, but it's kind of what it is. I mean, Dum Dum has been super fun. Yeah. Hoarder's mind on the map's been important. Mobility's damage dealing and positioning on the AD carries. It's really been a fun day for Team Hoarder. But there is one more game for Team Crimson to, find a win that doesn't really matter too much, but most importantly, try and put together a bit more cohesive of a game. We have another extended break coming your guys' way as they get to VOD review the game we just watched. But we'll be back for the final game of set 1 of today. So technically 3 of 6. But a fun third last one for myself and RMC coming your guys' way. Time to wrap block 1 up of of day 8 of the Path2Pro Combine. Game number 3, we got Team Hoarder on this side, blue side is Team Hoarder once again, Team Crimson on the red side. And I like to see the Team Hoarder is respecting Bio's pocket picks here with 20 champions off the board here, RMC. This guy is a demon on Rengar, and all you Ducky Getters fans know it.
I find it interesting that they actually didn't ban it prior to this game. So it feels like they're saying, okay, you wanted to play it earlier, feel free. But here in game 3, with champions being banned out, they're starting to feel like maybe Bio might take signature champions rather than more meta champions that might benefit his team. And given his performance in the Graves last game, I don't hate it. I actually think give him carries if that's what he's known for. In a game 3 when you're just looking, maybe just looking for a win to end things on a good note, then it becomes a very dangerous champion. Ivern, first pick coming through. I personally think Ivern completely busted right now. He is so strong, and he fits almost any composition that you want to run.
Yeah, but the marketed one though being 2 marksmen. You go AD mid, double marksman, shields galore, frustrate the other enemy team here. So definitely another vibe switch here. I think Bio has done wait, never mind. This is Will. I think Will has done a very good job. Still, I can say for either jungler. I think either jungler now by this point, if that Nunu gets locked in too, have played a vast array of champions. And that is going to be Bio on Nunu.
Let's go!
RMC, I wonder which NA jungler these two teams are a fan of.
Yeah, I wonder, where we might have seen Nunu come in from NA
and Ivern
recently.
And Ivern, to be honest. I mean, who's the biggest Ivern player in NA too, right?
One might say perhaps they're inspired by, things that they might have seen somewhere.
See you later.
That's it. Okay, the Nunu coming in though, really strong ganks to come through, and it's actually really hard to avoid if you get any sort of champion with low mobility and don't have good ways of getting around the Nunu. You're absolutely going to get punished. It's really, really strong forms of engage. That's one way to get around it. You pick Ezreal, something that's very mobile and can hop away, preferably over a wall where Nunu can't follow, and you pick Olaf, somebody who was raised in the snow, who can just plow right through it with his own ultimate and get to the meat of the matter.
I love how game 2 we thought mobility was going to play Ezreal. It sounded like mobility wanted to play Kaisa.
Yep.
And now he's like, all right, guys, now I'll play the less flashy one. I'll get an Ezreal game in for you guys, as we do see Crimson is going to lock in a Gnar game, one of the few champions you spoke about. Both Hoarder and Crimson have shared in their champion pools across the Combine.
Yeah, and actually, this continues the trend of top laners we were talking about. Hoarder, another unique champion for the Combine with the Olaf pickup. Crimson going back to the Gnar, champion he has played in the past, and he was not forced to play it by Roadstraff. He opted for the Gnar pick. Now, I don't hate it into the Olaf necessarily, range into melee matchup, though I will say it can get a bit dicey, especially if we do see a flash ghost Olaf on the top side. Once Gnar goes back to mini form, you can run him down the long lane with the ghost, and if Olaf can get on the Gnar and stick on the Gnar, you can land an axe and undertow, then it can go very poorly for the cute cuddly little dinosaur Yordle thing.
I think that's the apt description. I think he covers the dinosaur Yordle base pretty well. I think I'm not the best League of Legends lore guy, but I'm pretty sure they have yet to say how old Gnar is. They're just like, yeah, he's really old. So who knows? First draft though, RMC of the day, where we do see both mid laners actually leaving their picks for the second phase. We saw, an early Orianna pick. We've seen early Tristana picks. I believe Samikin picked a pretty early on. Yeah, he B1 Corki the last time they were on blue side. Yep. So intriguing. We still don't see a ton of mid lane bans in the second phase, and Dum Dum once again, or no, that's actually Dum Dum's team banning away Braum.
Yeah, because unfortunately for Dum Dum's team, for Team Hoarder, Team Crimson does get first selection of supports, and considering the amount of engaged supports we've seen, the tank supports we've already seen picked up. Alistar is probably the last one left. We've seen the Nautilus, the Rakan, the Leona, so I wouldn't be surprised if we see an Alistar ban come through from Dum Dum. Smolder instead. Yeah. Okay, so the last tank Alistar might go the way of Condemned.
We'll have to see. Would be intriguing to see Dum Dum play an Enchanter. Not the vibe he's been having today.
with a Varus, okay, yeah.
Yeah, so
I was gonna say with the Varus, I could kind of see it, right? Like a lot of poke to come through, but you are ultimately right, Slayer. They're just going with the Alistar, and that means Dum Dum's got a bit of a choice on his hand how he wants to play this, because. Again, what I remember of Dum Dum was back when he was playing under the Baruto name back mostly in 2023. And back then, he struck me as more like a hook style player. So I don't know how he is on Enchanters, and I guess we find out here.
No better place to figure that one out than a Combine is the Azir. Wow. I haven't seen a ton of Azir games from Zamikin, I have to say.
True, he's not exactly the one I think of, but it does technically fit the champion profile that he does like. It's a mage in the mid lane. It is something that can carry, and it's something that has a fairly safe lane that can be oppressive. So I like the champion to fit Samikin's profile, and in a way, it's good if it's champion he's not known for, but he can play. It's an expansion of a shampoo.
I like this a lot. I think Ezreal Maokai is a powerful duo in the fact that they're both kind of pesky with their poke ability. You know, the saplings get really annoying, the mystic shots get really annoying, but Ezreal as a AD carry, I always love getting a nerd out on my OTP. Ezreal's AD carry is, you know, he's all about constantly playing back foot. He's like, back up, back up, back up, keep firing shots as I play back. Maokai loves that, right? He's just completely about disturbing engages on whoever the targets are. So in lane, Maokai works really well with Ezreal, and then you also have the added benefit, RMC, of getting everything out of a Maokai out of lane, which are those really good Nature's Grasp engage setups, those unique angles you can come in from. So Dum Dum put a very intriguing spot with this champion pool, and from the draft, I think he's come out with a good spot.
And now the last champion to be locked in is Darkwing's pick. And Darkwing has enjoyed counter pick in quite a few of these games so far. I'm very curious what he opts into with Azir. I don't feel like Azir has a lot of bad matchups necessarily. Hui is banned unfortunately, so you can't outrange with the Hui, which is what I was thinking of. To round out their composition though, I would like to see, I feel like, a little bit more consistent damage to come out to pair alongside their Varus.
Definitely need some AP too. You can't rely on
Yeah.
a glass cannon Nunu from Bio to be your major AP damage dealer here. I do now like the Azir pick a lot more. Looking at the draft, no way.
Sorry, what?
Vayne mid is Darkwing's pick counter to Azir. There's no way.
Okay.
What? It has to go mid too. It can't go anywhere else. This doesn't work.
It could be Nunu mid. No, then who goes?
Oh
jungle?
my god.
I'm not sure. Well, it could be Varus mid, honestly, and then Vayne is the top side. Wait, no, then where's Nargo? Wait,
that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't think this Vayne can go anywhere but mid.
Vayne bot and Varus mid.
We'll have to find out when we go client side. That's for sure.
True. Yeah. You know, when they start drafting most, I honestly, I think I would prefer Varus mid into the Azir rather than in Vayne mid into the Azir, because I feel like Vayne has to just take so much bulk trying to get in there with the Emperor's Divide. There are just so many tools that it's really hard to lock down the Azir unless you get a hyper extended lane, and mid lane's the shortest lane. I don't think you're gonna find a favorable matchup for the Vayne to come through. Whereas into an Ezreal, I could still see the potential chase down that a Vayne has with that final hour to be able to run them down. But compositionally, let's touch on that. Double marksman coming through for the side of Team Crimson. Not notably AP unless we see an AP Varus come through. There's a lot of burst damage that they can put down. There's a lot of good AoE engage, but I am a little bit concerned for their frontline. Alistar is tanky. I don't know if he's tanky enough. And the bigger concern is what's going to stop an Olaf from just running amok in your backline. If you don't burst on the Ezreal and Azir early, the sustained damage they put through will make the front to back a little bit more favorable for them as well. So for Team Crimson, they have to find the right engage. They've got to pull the trigger, and they've got to work as a team. Something, Slayer, that they've been struggling with tonight so far. The individual mechanics will all be fine. Hey, maybe you go for a split push of the Vayne. Maybe, but I still think it comes down to team fights, and that comp makes it that much harder to execute.
I wonder if this is a reaction to the Ivern, because are we about to see like double Serpent's Fang just to deal with these Ivern shields? Because that is where like AP champions and Ivern become very difficult. Like, you don't have a bona fide item that can kind of nerf his shield capabilities. You definitely can build Serpent's Fang on Varus, especially if you go the lethality route. I don't think it's out of the question for a Vayne build path either, so we'll have to see.
I fully agree with you. And you know what? We're so focused on trying to figure out how this draft for Team Crimson is going to work. But I want to touch a little bit on Team Hoarder's draft as well, right? We touched on the fact that, yes, they've got strong front to back. They've got good skilling with Ezreal and Azir, a lot of space to come through. But on top of that, one thing I want to highlight is all of them have tools to deal with the Nunu. Their entire draft isn't afraid of the snowball. With the exception of maybe Ivern not necessarily having the best way to deal with it. You've got Daisy to delay any follow-up that comes through. Daisy's the champion, Ivern's just the pet. You've got Olaf who can kind of run through. You've got Ezreal can get over a wall. Azir can get over a wall. Emperor's Divide will stop Nunu engagement from coming through. Maokai can actually dodge through with the Twisted Advance to get underneath the snowball, not to mention the ultimate as well, Nature's Grass, to stop any engages coming through. So the Nunu pick, I liked a lot on paper. I liked it when Inspire picked it. I love it now that we're seeing it. But playing into this draft, it's not about the Nunu, actually. It's going to be about the rest of the team. If anything, they need to set up the Nunu for success here. If he's the first one face planting his way in, I don't think he's coming out the other end of the fight.
Without a doubt. And I'm excited to see. This is the first game in the set. We talked a lot about it. We've been preaching champion pool flexibility, playstyle flexibility. The one guy that kind of negated that conversation.
Wait, where's my Nunu?
Besides Dumb. Oh. Did we already have a Sejuani too?
We did. Game one, Will played it.
So it's not feel okay. So it looks like it might be a misinput.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay, there we go.
Okay, all right, yeah.
I was so disappointed for a second. I'm like, bro.
I was like, yeah, it's like, well, I completely threw off my point. And my point here is, Hoarder was the only person that has played like similar styles across 2 games. This is that game you're asking for, RMC. It's not the Jax, unfortunately, but it's the Olaf into a Gnar matchup where Hoarder can play to carry.
Yeah, for sure. And I love the diverse styles we're coming through. And speaking of diverse styles as well, I do want to shine a bit of a light on Will for how he's played this series, right? He played a Sejuani game 1, he played a Kindred game 2, and now he's playing an Ivern game 3. 3 very distinct, unique styles. You've got Sejuani as an engager, as somebody who's going to be a natural tank for the team. Then you play a massive carry. There we go. There's our Nunu. And now you're playing a utility style support, more of an enchanter style pick to come through the jungle. So Will, very impressive. We said from the start at the start of the day that he's played the most games. I think he's played 7 series, his 8th today as he comes through with this one. And just the champion pool that he's showing, the play styles he's showing. He's really showing that he's a player that can slot into any team, no matter what you need of him.
It's my favorite part about being part of this combine is to see the champion diversity. One, because we get to watch them on the combine stage, but most importantly, RMC. If we're ever casting in these people, we can randomly pull out if they ever reach into this deep into their bag, we can be like, I remember watching Samick and Azir in game 3 of the Sido.GG Combine Day 8. So it's actually not a weird pick here for Samick.
Yeah, I'm sure he's played it before, but yeah, I'm with you. So you know what? The problem is sometimes when we see too much of it, it gets lost in our minds, and we're not sure where it's coming from. For now, though, it does look like it will be a Varus mid, which I much more appreciate. One of the traditional answers to an Azir is outrange the Azir. That's why we saw things like Xerath become an answer to Azir a couple years back in the LCK. Likewise, Varus can do a very similar thing. Now, the other question with the Varus mid now becomes, is it going to be AP Varus mid to pair with the team? You've got the Gnar, you've got the Vayne already for physical damage and true damage in the case of Vayne. And AP Varus as well was infamous for one-shotting champions. It had the highest burst out of all 3 of his builds. And with the way lethality has changed, I'm actually not sure if lethality or AP does the most single target burst. It should have enough to burst through even an Ivern shield on anybody who's not a tank. So if they can catch mobility or Samikin, theoretically an AP Varus should be able to one-shot them.
And you always have the fallback of if you go for the lethality build, even arguably the on-hit build, you can supplement Serpent's Fang into that build path, so you still have a shield answer. Sure. Very, very smart from Darkwings, who we were a bit critical of build paths in his first game on the Syndra. Varus certainly going to be, especially in this spot, just endless options to build through with this champion. And I'm curious as well if we get AP Varus, I wonder what the Nunu build looks like here for Bio, because as much as NA is like all hyped around Nunu after what Inspired did, there's still a lot of like tinkering with what actually is like a competitively optimal Nunu build, because we all know the Nunus in your solo queue games who just go full AP and try and nuke everybody with one snowball. That does not work here. That will not work in a competitive setting.
No, it's your Faker, apparently. I mean, Faker's the guy who whipped it out originally, and then everybody hopped in that build. Yeah, I think generally in solo queue, I'm still seeing mostly tankier bruiser Nunus that kind of facilitate the team. And if you are going AP Varus, I would like that. If you're going AP Nunu, though, or if you're going lethality or on-hit Varus, then I think AP Nunu is perfectly fine, and you just go for maximal burst to come through. We talked a lot about what Nunu can and can't do in terms of team fights against this composition that Team Hoarder has drafted. But it's not just about the team fighting as well, right? The laning, Nunu's, one of his most important things are the way he can brute force his gank. When that snowball is really running, it can get really massive, and the movement speed you gain from it, and you come into a lane, makes it very, very dangerous. And sure, Ezreal can arcane shift away, but if he's not over a wall, you can chase him down. Azir as well will struggle pre-6 to really stop some of those ganks from coming through, and topside. Olaf is good because of Ragnarok to be able to run through the snowball. If you don't have Ragnarok pre-6, he's very vulnerable to Nunu ganks and for Gnar poke. Gnar outranges him already. If you can't land the Ender Troll, you don't win that trade. Now you pair that with the Nunu, with the perma slows to boot. and Olaf might be in for a rough time. Hoarder has to be very, very careful. Ward out deep pre-6.
Yeah, it's almost against most of the Olaf matchups where level 1, he's slamming 80% of his champion matchups, but got to be a bit careful if you're a Hoarder here, who has had certainly a very impressive day number 1. Now, RMC, obviously, we talked a lot about people that have looked pretty good here. Who are you looking to have like a great finish to our block here? Because we've had heroes like like Dum Dum, Hoarder's been big. We talked about Dark Wings and Will. Whose game is this one to take over after the 3 sets we've seen?
Ooh, that's a bit of a tough one. Part of me just wants to say Bio just because he's got the Nunu.
Yeah, that's fair.
And I love Nunu, and I do think Nunu will be very impactful in terms of what he can do in the laning phase. But I'm actually going to say Crimson a little bit this game. I want to see Crimson pop off more than he has this game. Unfortunately, with the way the games have gone, game 1, his Aurora had a lot of impact, for better or for worse, right? He was winning out a lot of the trades. He was huge in team fights, but him getting caught on the side lane did cost him game. In game 2, unfortunately, the Rumble, again, it gave and it took away, right? He had great equalizers to catch up in the game, but it also wasn't up on that critical fight, and the TP kind of cost him. I feel like here in the game 3, I don't want to see give and take. I want to see take and take from Crimson with this Gnar. And one of the things Crimson today, his sort of mission this set was to get very impactful TPs, to get very impactful flanks, pardon me. And with the Gnar, that is how the champion works. I want to see some great flanks, great engages coming through from Crimson.
You make or break your Gnar impact, certainly, with that flank power. Don't need to make or break this series. It's a Combine block. There's no making or breaking with this game number 3. It is just in understanding your matchups and showing these coaches what you can do. Because like we mentioned at the top, as we were on to Summoner's Rift, the first major cutoff for this 3-week gauntlet of an online circuit with the Path2 Pro Combine is a coming.
Okay, and we can see the chat popping up in the corner there. The players already going at it. And actually, Team Hoarder sneaking into the top side push already as well. They want to get some action.
Oh.
Wait, why do we got to pause here?
I mean, they immediately both ready back up. Okay, so I don't know what that was about. Nonetheless, I'm pretty. Did Crimson spot this yet? I can't. I think the way he's positioned in the brush, he might have seen more than. No, he definitely didn't. So you were talking about it. Crimson should have the edge in the Olaf matchup for at least the first couple levels in mini, and maybe Team Hoarder recognize that and want to see if they can punish him.
Yeah, I think Crimson is just thinking that they might be up here. He's still in the bush, kind of playing it safe. I love that he's kind of rotating around trying to get as much vision as possible, but Team Hoarder, this level 1's awesome.
All right. Crimson gonna find 4. Dum Dum gets the engage. He's gonna hop over, still has his flash. Nobody from Team Hoarder just yet committing to try and find the kill. Mystic Shot lands from mobility.
They get the last one.
Does not, so they won't follow. But this is Will's jungles now, certainly, as we find a really good time for the double pause to come across. And, well, we had a game 2 with a ton of funny invades and a ton of kills. This time, maybe just 1 kill. Man, they really want Crimson.
They do. Hoarder even tanking this one up now. Oh, that was not
didn't
worth.
hit the Mystic Shot.
Yeah. Okay, well, is it worth... Crimson now has his flash burnt, is forced to go back to base right from the get-go. Hoarder, though, also has the base, so it kind of feels like a net neutral at the end of the day, as long as nobody TPs into lane. While all this was happening as well, we did see Good Boy and Kim Down and Darkwings all kind of invade on that bot side, make sure that they're getting a ton of vision down. So Will does slow down Bio to start, but they will be able to track exactly where Will is going in this early game.
They're now forcing a lane swap, too, or different assignments at least. They're sending Hoarder down there to match the Alistair Vayne. Not the worst lane for you to be 2v1ing on. With the axes, Olaf can try and pick up some of the wave, and Vayne can't really threaten too much under the turret trying to farm up. So I don't hate it, especially with how Gnar, like we talked about, can be pretty strong into Olaf in those early levels. But it just seems like Team Crimson are really just overloading this bot side. I wouldn't be surprised if we get a dive onto Hoarder.
And I think this benefits Crimson as well. The fact that Bio was forced into a vertical jungle because of that invade means that they do have more numbers on their side. Not to mention Nunu can get some pretty nasty dives off with that snowball. Dum Dum is now racing into the bot lane, but he will get spotted on those wards we were talking about earlier. So if Team Crimson want to make a dive happen, they know what timers they're on.
I think this dive is almost inevitable, and Hoarder knows that he's going to back off because Samikin was shoved under turret. There's no way for him to rotate over on top of that, and it's just going to be the 4-stack trying to burn through turret plates as they leave Darkwings to just... It's always the mid laners that do nothing in these scenarios, right? The lane swaps, and then it's just mid laners farming as usual.
Hey, farming is an important part of society as well. You know, somebody's got to put food on the table, and in this case, it's got to be the mid laners.
Oh, okay, first snowball from Bio. Dum Dum does dodge it. Level 1. Kipdown goes to the re-engage. Ignite over top of Dum Dum. One more Q will grab it. It's first blood to Good Boy.
Onto the Vayne, a champion that can definitely carry games. Mid lane, Will is just getting pounded here. And Hoarder, he went into turret too.
Juke the slime ball. Good Boy tanks the first turret shot with his auto. They'll now re-engage. Kim Down should die for this. Hoarder's gonna hit the fadeaway axe. Gets a big heal, and it's gonna actually get him a double kill.
What?
Nearly a
The
triple.
minions!
It is
The
a
minions!
triple. Oh, it's an execute, but still, what an outplay from Hoarder.
Good Boy is so lucky that Hoarder didn't tag him at all in that entire dive. And things just completely swung the other way. I thought it was a great start from Team Crimson. If anything, I was questioning Team Hoarder and their decision for the lane swap. We touched on the fact that Bio was on a vertical jungle path because of the invade, and it was Team Hoarder who opted for the initial lane swap. They sent their Olaf into a 1v2, potentially 1v3, what ended up being a 1v4 situation. And Team Crimson absolutely abused that fact. But that dive was very ill-advised, and you saw how the turret stacking was just so massive. The damage towards the end was huge.
Oh, mobility. Now getting hounded. The headbutt lines up for... Kipdown doesn't have the stun yet, but the condemn lands on a mobility. Has to burn the barrier and flash, but Good Boy goes to the execution, flashes out himself. Will be able to find the trade. Huge shutdown, as that was a 3-kill Vayne, by the way. And now commence wet noodle fight. Nobody's dying here.
Good Boy died to a wet noodle. Choked on it, unfortunately. And Will, we were talking about this guy. You know, he was playing engaged initially. Now then he was playing carry in game 2. Now he's meant to be playing an enchanter support in game 3. Now Will's gonna play on mage in game 3, getting that kill under his belt, getting a lot of action all over the map. And you can tell these teams, game 2 had an exciting early game. They did not get it out their system. Game 3 is insanely fast-paced as well to start.
Bio trying to steal away some Raptors, getting hounded by Dum Dum. Mobility's damage very present onto the Nunu, even though the chain vest is purchased. Mobility just shreds him.
Yeah, Mobility coming out of base, having been dove on that top side turret, is perfect time to pick that up. And they're going to rotate into this bot lane. Crimson has to be careful about this. He's about to go... His bar is charged, but it's still a 2v1.
Yeah. He's going to get Mega soon here. Finally, we'll commence into it. Gets the double hop off Mobility's head. No flash, no arcane shift. Does hit the big mystic shot. One more would claim him the kill, and he's going to snipe it out. Mobility, what a day for the AoE 80 carry.
And this lane swap worked so much better for Hoarder. For Team Hoarder, pardon me, as a whole. For Hoarder specifically, maybe not so good. He's getting
We're
dove
going
again.
Will's
here.
Will's here. Headbutt pulverized. They're going to try and get the condemn. No shield from Will. He doesn't get close enough to Hoarder. This time the dive goes a lot better. Lens from Good Boy to get out of the snare at the very least.
Coming.
3 versus 2. The dive works out a bit better. Samikin nearby. Kim down. Good. Headbutt to create some space. Has to flash away. But Samikin not able to find a trade kill on the rotation.
I'm just waiting for the new challenger to approach. Every time I see Samikin roam out, I am just waiting for Darkwings to follow as well. Will the snipe land?
Oh, Good Boy. He's
Oh, it does!
Oh, no. Good Boy. He gave it to him.
Oh, dear. Good Boy became Dead Boy. And unfortunately, what is the most upsetting is that they had vision of the True Shot Barrage coming through. Good Boy just miscalculated. It's only a couple of pixels. It's a Teemo or two, but he walked right into it. And Mobility, we've seen this song and dance before. When Mobility starts to get ahead, things go from bad to worse, and Dum Dum gets absolutely unleashed every time his lane partner starts getting kills.
I feel obligated to be the Gen Z term representative on this caster desk, and that is what we call in the business rent-free from Mobility. He ulted where he knew Good Boy would react to his ultimate. That's what's going on here. That's.
I'm sorry to say, I'm a millennial. Rent-free,
It's
those
okay,
two
I
words
got
don't
us.
exist in the same sentence ever.
Well, you know what? That's also, unfortunately, very true.
Well, and in this case, you know, the living rent-free in his head, but in reality, he had to pay the rent, and Good Boy, unfortunately, going down. kind of hurts. That's it. Good Boy's actually not in a bad state himself. He is still 3-3-1. The worst part for Good Boy has been that he's been falling behind a little bit in the lane rotations, and he's getting out. He's not getting as much experience or levels, which isn't the critical thing for the Vayne, especially in this 2v2 situation. It's not a solo lane Vayne. So Good Boy will be fine if they can just slow the pace of the game down. And for Team Crimson as a whole, they're actually still neck and neck. You can see the gold is pretty much even. The big difference being that Void Grubs have gone the way of Team Hoarder. So Team Crimson just need to be aware of that and not kind of make any more mistakes. Just kind of track where Will is going and don't get too hyped with dives.
I'm hoping we get a couple 1v1s between Good Boy and Mobility. We probably won't, but the fact that both of them are accelerated and the champions are so different, like complete opposite stylistically, those 1v1s are so fun. Watching a Vayne and Ezreal try and dance around each other to find the outplay, but probably won't get that. Instead, we'll just get this. Mobility getting chased by slime balls the whole time. Val tries to get the lockdown. True Shot Barrage out. Mobility trying to stall. There's redemption over his head, but the Gnar ultimate, the Gnar damage is enough. Kim Down will find the kill, and Dum Dum will be very soon to follow his AD carry. Crimson picks that one up.
And while all of this is happening, play in the mid.
Oh, Samikin shuffle into the roof, flashes the chains of corruption. Darkwing's still alive though, taking a ton of damage, but there isn't enough to find the execute. And now Kim Down is here. Darkwings is surviving, but Daisy's gonna find the kill. Ivor's not the champion. Daisy's the champion of come and play. Samikin does fall on the backside as Will flashes away to safety.
And in the 3v2 with Daisy there, unfortunately, this Team Crimson winning that out. Top side, the rundown.
The shield, one more swing, and gets it. Hoarder drops Good Boy.
Look, so there, I know you want to see the Ezreal Vayne matchup, but was that not more exciting, the Olaf Vayne matchup?
Yeah, it was a real big skill expression, just like this ultimate from Bio. Daisy's at it again, man. Somebody stop Daisy. She's running wild. Dum Dum and Will apparently have enough damage to kill off anybody.
Unfortunately, Daisy didn't have a bounty, so Kim Down didn't get it when he took out Daisy there. A little bit unfortunate. Yeah, this Will, though, is running rampant right now. We were talking about how the side lanes were actually going in favor of Team Crimson. Top side, Hoarder did solo out Good Boy. But I want to highlight how much CS he actually lost in that situation. Good Boy was just hammering him under turret with the range advantage with a huge wave pushing in. And Hoarder finding the turn around, that's something that we've lauded him so much for, being a weak side king. No matter what the matchup might be, even when he is supposed to be somebody who gets carry. Bot side as well. That dive was clean, and Mobility and Dum Dum have to be careful. We talked about the fact that Ezreal needs to get over a wall. If not, Nunu runs you down. And they should have gotten Dragon after it. If not for the mid lane action that happened, Dragon would all be gone. It doesn't matter though. Team Crimson can go right back to it. They still have full control over this bot side of the map against the Ezreal bot pack.
It is going to be a pretty late first Drake take. We haven't had games run very long in this block. We haven't had a soul point really yet, but 10:30 on the clock is when the first Ocean Drake is grabbed. I mean, even in a perfect world of 4-0 Drakes, his Mobility, that was a very aggressive arcane shift. Maybe he likes his odds with Dum Dum here. Yeah. True Shot Barrage, not going to land. Kim Down does not have ultimate, so it's a lot squishier of an Alistair, and Mobility's damage is there. Good Boy goes in the invisibility, the double headbutt pulverized from Kim Down, gets them a kill, and it's all Team Crimson as Bio and company have found Samikin in the mid lane. It's a double to Good Boy, and Daisy's finally going to fall for Will. Hoarder is here. Bio and Darkwing's not the healthiest, and they won't push any further with 3 kills being claimed by their squad.
And Team Crimson, they fire back in equal situations. The 2v2 in the bot side, they win out in the mid lane 2v2 as well. Darkwing's a player who throughout this series has been sort of the saving grace, it feels like, for Team Crimson when things have been going poorly for them. Is able to kind of turn things around, and Bio is just getting so much help from his lanes in a way. All his ganks have been largely converting for the most part, being a benefit for him. Hoarder, half health already, and watch the snowball coming in.
Ragnarok ignores Snowball. Big shield from Ivern. Hoarder accelerated thanks to Will, but he can't commit to any of the kills just yet. And Crimson, with the help of Darkwing, snipes him out before they can claim his jungler. And now Will, up creek with no paddle, shut down by Darkwings.
Yeah, apparently axes don't really do too well in canoes. What can we say? Good Boy, though, has to be careful. Root lands.
Oh, Dum Dum immediately commits. Good cleanse up from Good Boy into the Condemn against Mobility. Dodges the True Shot Barrage. Good Boy looks hella comfortable on this Vayne, and Kim Down wants to put him in the position to succeed, but the Mystic Shot lands. Ignite gets the kill, and now it's Mobility's turn to turn it on to Kim Down. And there won't be any further, but man, is this volatile.
That was so clutch. And I'm glad that this time Mobility and Dum Dum actually turn onto the Vayne. The problem is Vayne as a champion was designed to run down other champions. Her passive gives you movement speed when you're chasing after people. So for Mobility and Dum if you opt for the fight, it's win or die. There is nothing in between. So this time Mobility actually turns around, gets the kill on that. But look at their score lines. Mobility, from an amazing start to the game, I think it was 3-0 to start the game, is now 4-3-1. Good Boy died a couple of times early, but he is still up kills right now. He is 6-5-1 with the Blade of the Ruin completed. He's actually keeping pace with Mobility, at least in terms of items. A little bit ahead because of the detour that Mobility has to take with the Tear of the Goddess. So Team Crimson as a whole right now is doing really, really well. And this is not even when we've hit the team fighting phase yet, where the Nunu, where the Gnar can really start to pop up.
Not going to be any Void Mites again in this game. Split 3-3 between Will and Bio. One of the, well, rather more unnoticed things of a 23-kill game at 13 minutes.
I didn't even notice we were up to 23 kills. That's crazy. That's almost 2 kills a minute.
I don't see it slowing down anytime soon, RMC, like you were talking about. That's with right. How team fight oriented both these squads are. There's not going to be a lot of split pushing. It's just more absolute battles, war of attritions.
I just want to see a full 5v5 breakout between both of these teams right now. They're at the point where that should be the focus of the game, but because the Dragon was taken so late, we don't actually get to see them kind of go for it for another minute and a half. That second Drake is going to feel like a third Drake in terms of timing.
Darkwings gets a huge chunk of gold, knocking down first turret with plates up still on that bot side, and he's going to keep the push into Samikin because Bio and the rest of Team Crimson have indexed really hard into this bot side. Snowball going to drift by Samikin. The root still comes across. Ooh. Good stream and shovel to throw Bio into the turret. He flashes to drag it to safety, but Darkwing still gets the kill. Good on Samikin to at least find a trade, as Crimson's playing very safe on his weak side assignment.
No minion wave in that top side, unfortunately, means Hoarder won't be able to take an outer turret, and this entire time, Darkwing's answering back with an inner turret in the bot lane. Even more gold to go the way of this lethality Varus. It's not AP Varus, and Bio isn't AP Nunu either. So this is a tank Nunu coming through from Bio to allow Darkwings and Good Boy to be the big burst damage champions on this team.
I'm hoping for a Serpent's Fang fourth if we see it from Darkwings. Gotta think he's gonna complete the Man Immune next. Lane gank for Nunu. Oh, Bio actually didn't want to go fully onto Mobility, who could drift away from it, but see a lot of pings towards the top side. Maybe we might get our first real big fight. Herald and the next Drake are going to be on the map at virtually the same time.
Oh, perfect timing.
Oh, Crimson. Unfortunate time, actually, for RMC, for him to go into mini, because he is mincemeat. Hoarder finds that kill quite easily.
True, fair enough. I was in perfect timing on that TP, and they will be able to rotate into that Herald as well. So we're going to see a Dragon for a Herald trade most likely come through for both these teams. They recognize what they can and cannot do. Unfortunately for Will, Ivern is very, very slow. I don't see a Daisy. This Herald isn't going down anytime soon without backup.
I'm shocked
there we go. There's Daisy.
Yeah, there's Daisy. I was going to say, I'm shocked the Hoarder wasn't coming over to help him, because this is still pretty slow.
Yep.
That ward in the pit, they know that Herald's being taken. Bio's drifting on over. Yeah, he's going to push the snowball towards the pit. Herald's only at about 4K. Will re-engage with Mobility close by. Now there's a ward on top of the Herald itself, but Bio doesn't want to push his luck. Actually, he's going to flash it and just steal it. Makes me eat my words, and now Mobility and Will are going to have to get out of the river as Kim Down goes in for a headbutt pulverize, but that was highway robbery.
Yeah, and that's a control ward. You saw it the entire. You could have cleared it, but they thought, okay, we saw that Bio walked out. Surely he can't get in time. Surely we can finish this off. No, you're an Ivern. You're hella slow. You had no backup, and I appreciate the idea that they were setting up bait. Right, Mobility had priority in the mid lane. He could go and push Bio out. They had stronger members, but Bio's job isn't to get kills. It's not to fight with you. His job was just to snipe Herald away, and they got it. Kim Down picks up the eye of the Herald as well, and suddenly Team Crimson, they're in a great position.
Oh, Hoarder thinks he has an angle on a Darkwings, who does have to flash over the wall, but Team Crimson is close by, so Darkwings isn't going to get shut down. But can they just burn through Hoarder on the trade? Nature's Grasp is holding all three members in place, and Crimson doesn't even get to go Mega Gnar. Great Maokai ult, and Hoarder is unleashed and just shredding through Team Crimson. Shut down over to Samikin. Dum Dum gets an engage onto Good Boy, forces out his cleanse. Good Boy out of mana. Dum Dum still pushing the tempo. Samikin trying to get close. Mobility over the wall. Both Bio Good Boy get back under their turret though, and that will save them for now.
That's insane. Hoarder just said not today. Literally not. I will just run all of you down. Good boy, unfortunately, not actually able to get into the fight. Good job from the rest of Team Hoarder to zone him out. And without the damage to actually kill the Olaf, he was regenerating throughout the fight. Bio now going in a little bit deep.
Bolts. Gonna get the minion wave cut down. No, he doesn't even get the minion wave. Dies to mobility.
He saved
Should
it.
at least save the mid-turn. Yeah, for one more wave. Or actually for a lot longer.
Yeah, because of that, they won't be able to push in. So, pretty big, I think, for Team Crimson, keeping the turret up. You know that my preference is for their T1 turret. I feel like that's really, really strong. Came down just interrupting the backs. Is it going to cost him his life?
Good boy's nearby. No ult on this vein just yet, but the health bars are not in favor of Team Crimson, and Good Boy is 2 items deep on this vein. Respect needs to be given over towards the power of this champion, but still seems like Team Hoarder want to fight. True Shot Barrage hits a good old-fashioned field goal. It doesn't seem like much further will happen as the minion waves dissipate.
Yeah, Good Boy is just dancing around all these skill shots. Incredible play, actually, from this vein. Something that perhaps has not been highlighting enough throughout this game. He's been dodging out a lot of those skill shots, and that was what won him a lot of those 2v2s. That's what won this fight, and will let Herald charge in. They might be able to get 2.
Really bad reset timer for Team Hoarder for sure. I mean, mobility still doesn't feel like he can reset to grab some of this gold. I think he'll finally be able to, but kind of think this Ezreal is sitting on quite a ton of income.
I need to see it to believe it. I mean, he should have the mirror mana completed. It's fully stacked at any rate. Yeah, there we go. Okay, good call there, Slayer. And with that, hopefully mobility will have a little bit more impact in these fights. He's through that power trough where he's just sitting, stacking that tier, crying in a corner, and he's actually got the mirror mana fully online. Problem still remains, though, is that a lot of Ezreal's damage is skill shot based. He's got to land those mystic shots. He's got to land the True Shot Barrage. And aside from the one amazing smite cross map where it's Good Boy unfortunately stepped into it, the True Shot Barrages have not been able to really chunk out the Vayne, to chunk out the Varus. And Dark Wings has been getting good initiates. Good Boy has been able to clean house. The only thing I'm still waiting to see from Team Crimson at this point, after seeing the great ganks from Bio, seeing the carry performances from Dark Wings and Good Boy, is for Crimson to get the Mondo flank off the side.
Yes.
And if that happens, that might very well be the game-breaking fight.
I'd like to see mobility look to chain True Shot Barrage a bit more with the Nature's Grasp. You can just, that snare's long enough, you can pick off a target that gets hit by it, so we'll see if those start to land a bit more as that part of the game evolves. We still really haven't seen that big team fight just yet. It's been a bunch of scattered skirmishes and people overstaying off of resets. And a lot of those slime balls coming through is another win con has presented itself for Team Crimson. We talked about how late the first Drake got taken, but they are quietly about to sit on Soul Point if they can grab this Infernal Drake.
And both teams are contesting for control over this bot side. Darkwings actually got ganked by Will, and I think it was Sunken. Hold up.
Ooh, going into Hoarder forces Ragnarok, but he's just going to go for Good Boy. Good Boy has no
Can he
support.
get it?
He's got to kite back. Big Ivern Shield, the Locket saves Hoarder.
Dodging!
Good Boy also survives. Kim Down goes back in. Mobility flashes over Good Boy to try and kill him, and now Kim Down is caught out too far forward. Crimson didn't have Meganar. Bio couldn't find a way in, and Team Hoarder punished them heavily for it.
And I feel so bad for Good Boy. He did so much work. He dodged everything. He tried so hard, got so far, and in the end, something about Heavy is the crown. And they're going to lose the mid-outer turret for it as well. Dragon Standing. Crimson doesn't find the engage he was looking for.
Mobility jukes it, and Samikin slams the other two home. Here you go. Gift wrapped and sealed is Dark Wings and Bio. Double over to Will, but Samikin just gave his team a mid-turret, Baron, and more.
Forget the dragon. They go right for the Baron. Now, this is still a little bit risky. Will low on health. Hoarder going to have to tank this one up. He's going to take a huge debuff. Dum Dum kind of low. Good Boy. Can they get there in time? If Good Boy gets here, I could see a cleanup crew sweeping it.
He doesn't have final hours, so he will be a little bit limited. But yeah, this Baron's gone.
Check outside.
Will, not even going to smite it, will finally secure it. They're actually going for Good Boy. Dum Dum is so fearless, and Hoarder has Ragnarok back up. They just burn through Good Boy. 2 teleports. It's Dark Wings and Crimson. Give it a third as everybody's just coming in to try and break up this fight. Double kill over to Hoarder, still surviving. Dark Wings just gets locked down by Dum Dum. Somehow, even off a Barrett take RMC, Team Hoarder can't lose a fight.
Yeah, and once again, it feels like when it comes down to the split second decisions, Team Hoarder is just able to win out every time. They are more decisive when the play comes down to it. Good Boy goes in, not enough backup, and Dum Dum, he's always the one to make that split second call. For Dum Dum, there is no retreat. There is only advancing. Getting in, getting that knock up onto Good Boy to displace Good Boy closer to Hoarder made all the difference. If Good Boy gets the kite, they win that. They clean that up. But because you got pushed closer to the Olaf, the undertow lands, the chase down happens. Once Vayne's dead, Dark Wings, unfortunately, is not the big teamfight carry. He built lethality. He's about the poke, he's about the burst. But leave him in the middle of the fight, and he's not going to be able to shred everybody the same way the Vayne, heck, even the Nard to a certain extent, is going to be able to do.
Darkwings recognizes Will is annoying, actually rushes the Serpent's Fang third, so he's just sitting on a stacked tier on this lethality. Varus, I gotta give credit more to Team Hoarder because, you know, comp-wise, the team fight ability of a Nunu Gnar is scary, but the answer for Team Hoarder, RMC, has just been not letting them start fights the way they want to. We haven't yet to see a fight that Team Crimson has drafted this entire comp for. And we might not see it here. Daisy blocks a snowball. Kim Dow gets interrupted trying to go back in. And look at Samikin and the Sand Soldiers. They're just shredding the front line. There's no way for Kim Dow to go in. And without that, Crimson doesn't feel confident to even get Mega Gnar stacked up.
They weren't even able to clear the wave, unfortunately. To be fair, not a lot of ults burns on Team Crimson. They are letting that fall and looking for another opportunity. But the chunk that they're getting, just trying to get in there, is just brutal to watch.
It's just so hard for Bio to get anywhere close.
Oh
There's
my God, that's
brushes, there's shields, there's Daisy to worry about, there's snares. Nunu was running the early game, but now that Team Hoarder can play as a cohesive unit, this Nunu is very, very treacherous every time he thinks about going in.
Yeah, and again, Bio is building tank, right? He's got 2 full tank items in, but just approaching them, Samikin and mobility absolutely shredded. That's a quarter of his health trying to approach at this point. How are you going to get the absolute 0 off?
We're going to have to find a way to break up this 4-1 split for sure. As Crimson's even struggling to chunk down Hoarder, who just continues to bring Baron Wave after Baron Wave up. And this brush combined with the Azir turret, I mean, this is just absolute... This is the most annoying siege ever. I mean, how do you deal with this?
You can't, apparently. Team Crimson not quite able to find their way in. You got to brute force it, and now Bio's looking for the engage, gets rooted out.
They're too low, and mobility's just shredding their health bars. Bio's dead. Samikin picks it up, and now the base soon to be opened up as well. Mid inhibitor down. This is just all Team Hoarder.
Yeah. You can say that again. 7,000 gold lead to Team Hoarder right now. Team Crimson just not able to find an answer whatsoever. And the siege isn't over yet. Baron buff might be gone, but Team Hoarder's still strong.
They're teleporting Hoarder in. Dum Dum going way too deep, but he's just trying to stop Hoarder, who Ragnaroks, and they're just going to blow through the front line. Once again, Crimson can't get in time when Mega Gnar pops because his team is down. It's Darkwings and Crimson, but it's another inhibitor to Team Hoarder.
You know, I thought Dum Dum was, you know, like a name to make fun of, like, being dumb or something like that. It's not. It's the sound of Jaws. It's Dum Dum, Dum Dum, Dum Dum.
Yeah, here they come once more. Dream and Shuffle to knock Bio out of his ultimate. Hoarder barely survives the turret, sniped out by Darkwings. Now Team Hoarder starting to overestimate their power without a reset, but they'll finally get an extra wave in and take that back to cash in thousands of gold pieces.
Okay, and that's 2 inhibitors down on that push. Dragon and Baron both spawning in around a minute and a half to come through. So Team Crimson, they get a small bit of breathing room to be able to kind of just farm up the wave, catch up where and how they can. But there, let's talk a little bit about the fights that we've seen so far, because we were saying that, yeah, there's a lot of team fight strength on the side of Team Crimson. They are not able to leverage it. They're not able to get in there whatsoever, and things have gone from bad to worse. Bio is level 13 right now. He is under leveled by a level. He's the tank and he can't quite get in there. If he's not initiating, who is? We said it before, Crimson has a mission. He's supposed to look for a Mondo flank. And I'm starting to think that that's the only way Team Crimson are going to be able to get back into this game, barring mistakes from Team Hoarder.
It's not necessarily Crimson's, you know, fault either. It's just been so hard to find these avenues with the Ivern brushes, these shields, and honestly the poke that Samikin and Mobility lay down. Yeah. If you don't snap engage onto this comp off the rip, they're just going to poke you out. But maybe they'll just go for depth brushes onto Will. Flashes create some safety, and now Hoarder goes back in. Good Boy is behind Will, but the redemption, the shield, it takes so long to burn through this Ivern. All these resources used by Team Crimson to knock down Will, but they do have Dum Dum picked off on the side. They're just going to nuke them one by one. Crimson gets his first ultimate, does
Okay.
throw Hoarder into the wall, but mobility is untouched. Starting to cook on this Ezreal with
Here
the
we go.
convert pop. Samakin trying to kite back, mobility creating space between Bio, trying to shred through that tank health bar, but Kim Down flashes over to lock him up, and they'll finally kill off mobility. 4 kills for Team Crimson.
Their base is in shambles. Crimson going back to answer along with his health bar. Baron is up and on the table. Team Crimson want that Baron, but they have to be careful of the TP into their base. Samakin, okay, not into the base. He's walking in with the wave on the bot side.
He's trying maybe set up for this dragon take on the flip side. My God, somebody help Crimson! He's losing to the super minions. They just took the Nexus turret. All right, Baron's here, but it wasn't a free take by any means, because Samakin, he's gonna finish his dragon off on his own to make sure there is no soul point for another 5 minutes.
You know what? Team Crimson losing their base in time-honored NA fashion. They're just learning from one of our best teams in the region. They didn't actually lose the Nexus though, so better than Team Liquid already. Dragon was snuck away by Samakin while all that was said. Good call on that, Slayer, recognizing that he's going for the Dragon instead of looking to end the base. And hey, props to Team Crimson. I was thinking it has to be an R play or bust, but they instead set up a death push and they immediately pull the trigger. They are getting more decisive as this game goes on. I just don't know if it's too late for that level of decisiveness for them to get back in. They're only 1k gold behind. The gold is very, very even, but the skilling from Team Hoarder is starting to come through, and I am still concerned that the team fight, we still not see that happen. I'm still not sold whether or not Crimson can get the timing right on that.
That was going to be my next point, is that this game going longer is just detrimental, because the damage profile from Darkwings, it's plateaued by this point. It's really just Good Boy's Vayne, and your damage certainly is plateaued Darkwings if you just let Hoarder run you down like that. Shut down over. Fight Force on the other side. Crimson does get a very good pick onto Will. Mobility is starting to throw the damage down with that True Shot Barrage. Good Boy locked up. His Dum Dum marks him once more. Cled's having to be popped. Good Boy starting to churn on these 3 stacks with his W, but it's Samakin to shuffle Good Boy, hand deliver him to mobility, and Hoarder says, to the hell with the fight. I won my 1v1. I want more blood. Gets Crimson down to a quarter HP. Now thinks the Nexus is the target.
Wait, can he?
Buffed up. Is it enough? Hoarder. One more. Oh, no! He doesn't call game. Falls just short by the mark.
Kim Down running away behind that wall. He has Baron. It's not enough. The Empire Recall doesn't take through. Baron living on a hope and a prayer. Samakin, mobility, Dum Dum. They are up and available. Bio is back in base with Crimson Darkwings to respawn. So I don't think we'll see a backdoor come through by any means, but we will see more blood.
The wheels have just fallen off this block since game 2. I blame the early game of game 2. That's what caused this.
You know what? I'm fine with the wheels coming off because they got jetpacks to make up for it. This game is accelerated off the rails, and I'm loving it. The problem is the macro is getting really, really scrappy.
Oh, it's out the window.
I don't envy the coaches. They've got to break this down after this block.
Yeah, they got to break this down after this block and then get prepped for another block with 10 new players. This is let's give some thank yous to the coaching staff for Cyber.GG, because how do you even break this down without taking like 2 hours?
Yeah, I mean, we mentioned that Coach Pockets is coaching Team Hoarder for this block, and I believe it's Team Coach Quash who's coaching the side of Team Crimson. And yeah, they've been doing I think a very fun job of it so far, coming through. And again, the players are improving game to game. So obviously something is happening behind the scenes. It's working. This is the closest game we've seen come through from Team Crimson as well. And like we said, I love that they're getting more decisive. That, if anything, is going to be what gets them back in the game. Crimson, for now, though, not quite ready to team fight. The rage bar is very, very low. And really, there's no objectives that they need to fight over right now.
Yeah, if a fight breaks out, it's just pure bloodlust or mispositioning from one of these two teams. But if you're Team Hoarder, why not just try and stack up this little death ball behind Will, get shields, Daisy, all that going, and you feel like you can run into anywhere. The problem with these last couple fights is that Will has been the first one to get picked off. You lose the Ivern, it really nerfs what Team Hoarder can do. Kim Down gonna go in, try and get on top, but you can see, look at the heals, the shields. Dum Dum just now gets under half HP while Kim Down is limping away from the fight, and they lose Bio. The front line meticulously worn down by Mobility Company.
Crimson?
4-man Gnar ultimate gets Hoarder locked up. Good Boy's untouched, and the Vayne is really starting to fly. Mobility knows that the Arcade's just forward, but he can't get Good Boy. Traded out by Darkwings, and Samakin's turn to go back in. The roots land from Will this time. Emperor's divided into the Zonyas just to guarantee Good Boy.
Oh, the flashes!
Away from the piercing arrow. Absolute filth, and Samakin calls game with a nasty triple kill.
Samakin with the clutch flash. It came down to effectively a mid lane 1v1. I know Will was there, but Will wasn't going to change the outcome of that. It was just straight reactions, predictions from these mid laners. And it feels like it's come full circle. So like I said, we saw them on day one, Samakin versus Darkwings. Darkwings won that out. And here a week later, Samakin wins out in the critical clutch situation. Team Hoarder, they don't drop a game this block.
Man, RBC, I'm sure you approach Combine the same way as I kind of am. It's us learning. We get have a little bit more fun. It's like a casual, more environment, and then we get a game like this, man.
Yeah.
This felt like game 5 of a, I don't know, for a playoff spot in the NACL. The way these two teams just went bar for bar. I mean, look at that gold graph, man.
Yeah.
That's a canyon and a mountaintop in the same game.
Yeah, and Team Crimson, I mean, they were winning out the early game. Huge props to them. They really leveled up this game as well. Bio's damage numbers don't do justice for what he managed to achieve in this game. In the early game, he was omnipresent. He had the highest skill participation. He was kicking things off. And Good Boy's Vayne is nothing to scoff at. It was the big carry for a lot of this series. But Team Hoarder ultimately managed to bounce back. They were just better with a lot of the shot calls that they were making. Again, with the engages. The engage at the end there as well. Kim Down was thinking about it, but Team Hoarder did it. As soon as they saw Kim Down even thinking about stepping up right there, they were like, okay, we will go for this. And with the turret to fall back on as well, they played that to just masterful perfection.
What a day. What a block. A lot of learning. A lot of kills on Summer's Rift. That's for sure. But a fun day nonetheless, RMC. Sure, this won't be the last time either of us are on the Combine because, like we've highlighted a couple of times, there's like 2 full more weeks of this, of the online Combine. There's even more action today as well, as I think after we end the stream here, we'll have a second block ran through with a ton more awesome players. I'm trying to pull up. Yeah, I mean, Dragoon, Zamudo, Kryra, Scary Jerry, and Cryogen get to play a bottom lane together. Shogo and Mixture get to play together. A lot of fun going on over there. So if you're looking for more action from Side.GG's Path2Pro Combine Day 8, make sure to stay locked. It looks like 5 o'clock, or sorry, PST gamer moment there. 8 Eastern. Wow, okay, that's in 15 minutes. I think I actually see our other casters loaded up, ready to take over. So Gordo and Quacks will have you for the second block. RMC, got any final words from us before we get the hell out of here after this block?
It was an absolute pleasure and delight. The players delighted. Slayer, it was really fun with you to cast on the mic with you as well. And yeah, I'm just looking forward to seeing more of this. I'm glad I get to take a break because I get to sit back and watch Quacks and Gordo enjoy the fun. I hope their block is as insane as ours.
Shout out as well to Caddy, our awesome producer behind the scenes. But yeah, that is it for us, folks. I think the stream is going to go down for like maybe 30 seconds so that Pop Tart can take over. But stick with us because all those fun players I just named are about to hit the same rift, the same exact block you just saw in about 15 minutes. We'll see you then. Shout out Gordo and Quacks. It's your guys' day now. Take care, everybody else.